how many of you are aware of this concept or the term called mediation? At least 2, 3, 4 people who can share their views. It'll be nice, and then we'll go further. Volunteers, please. Just unmute and let me understand. To the extent you've been exposed, you've been part of mediation, and maybe some of you are already certified mediators, and so anything. I mean, it'll be nice to engage, make it interactive, and let the other people also understand different views. Let them not hear only my voice. Any volunteers? 2, 3, 4, depending on.
Yeah, I think we've all heard of course, we have not only heard of mediation.
Yeah.
We have all been involved in mediation, arbitration, one stage or the other.
Agreed. You want to try and explain, in few sentences, your views on this thing, perspective, what exactly you think it means?
Yeah, I mean, when I first, when we first read of PPIRP, we thought it was like a mediation process, and if it could be extended, it would be more where people can come together, and IP could be more, in the role of a mediator. So was looking forward for something like that to happen, but of course there are other reasons.
Yeah.
And I don't know, I firmly believe that there is a role of mediation throughout the process, not just necessarily in the initial. So it's just how, and how it's finally.
Yeah, how it starts, how it fits in, and how it evolves, right? Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah, point taken. It, of course, PPRP is one such area where even I had high hopes, but for some issues which kind of, which were visible from day one, where maybe, with all the experience, exposure now what the authorities and regulators have, they should have been a bit more, amenable to an experiment, I would say, on one side, but then give the leeway, be a bit more flexible and start trusting the stakeholders, right? I mean, so those were some anomalies, but I think over the period, we'll have, some changes and tweaks again to make it more effective. Any more comments on this? Any observations?
So, as we know, sir, mediation is a part of alternative dispute resolution. So before a conflict between parties, if they sit together and try to mediate with each other, means to resolve the dispute, what is the point of conflict which they want to resolve, and which they resolve, reposing confidence into a person who is appointed as mediator or arbitrator, which you can say. So this is the an alternate way of resolving dispute between two parties.
Agreed. Absolutely. I mean, yes,
I had a question also, sir.
Please go ahead.
Before we start. So, as you told that you are a mediator.
Yeah.
So whether it is so if we talk crudely in sense of Arbitration and Conciliation Act, arbitrator terms have been used. If we talk of mediator, whether it is a recognized profession in context of India, I just wanted to understand.
So, okay, direct answer. If you say recognized profession, answer is yes. There are mediators who are actually, doing their job very nicely. And the only thing is what happens when there is a specific law at times and there is enough noise about it, it's codified, then people get to know more about it. Otherwise, right from Supreme Court to, High Court, district courts, there are, mediators, there are panels, that's on one side. But then we are talking about a lot of independent mediators, right? Including people like, myself, who are, so the only probably confusion at times is there is a court annexed mediation and then there's a private mediation. Okay. It's a different debate. I won't go further discussing the, making distinctions between the two. The only thing is, if it's a court annexed mediation, then normally what is happening at times during the process of the proceedings, the legal proceedings, right? The judge or even the parties, well, normally the judge would try and nudge the party and just say, why don't you explore mediation? And we have a cell and this and that. On the other hand, the private mediation normally is the pure pre-litigation process. So the only statement I would make is that it does no harm. The effort is worth an effort because the benefits far outweigh the effort. Which means that I mean, if you try it out, one session, few sessions, couple of months, 3 months, something like that. You try it out, something works out, great, because the benefits surely outweigh the effort what you have put in. Then after, in spite of a field mediation, if it were to be there, all your options continue to be open. The limitation is 3 years, and the other rights and everything is very much there. 3 months, for example, given to a mediation is a very noble effort, I would say, for a larger cause. Now the benefits will of course run through some of them as we move forward, but most important is that the relationships survive. Now to me that is probably the most important part, because what happens in a court, once you get an award in arbitration, or once you get a judgment in the court, essentially there is a winner and a loser, ideally, right? We agree, we don't, but at the day end, it's a winner takes all scenario. In mediation, we never look at a winner takes all scenario. We are saying give and take, move forward. So that is probably, the prime difference. Of course, non-adversarial, flexible, accommodative, confidential, voluntary, party autonomy, all these things are there. But most important to me is you save relationships. It can be the business as usual the next very day, right? There's a lot of effort in a business. And mediation, when we speak about, of course, here in IBC context, we'll be talking more on the commercial part. But when you talk about mediation, normally people only, get to hear about is a family mediation. But then there is an employment mediation, disputes in employment. And the third thing is a community mediation, right? And equally important is the mediation in a commercial disputes, because who says that something which is quantitative, or a contract or an agreement or MOU gone bad, you can't have a mediation. Simple logic again being, behind every dispute there would be an individual. Would you agree or not? If we say the companies are fighting with each other, are these companies fighting, or there are MDs and the CEOs who have a final call? Somebody is actually taking a call, no, that I need to I go with the vendetta, or I need to settle the score, or this or that. So at the end, somebody is looking at dominating, or proving himself right, or taking his pound of flesh, or whatever it might be. Simple point I'm making is, even if it's a commercial arrangement and a dispute, it's worth trying, and we do it, and it makes a difference. It's just that how people understand, right? Of course there'll be a role of mediator, right? But it has to be doing a lot with the mindset. So first of all, we have to accept that there is something called mediation. It can happen, it works, and it doesn't cost much. It doesn't take away your time, and it can lead to all healthy and positive outcomes. So why not give it a shot? It's like a homeopathic medicine, right? So it may not be a quick fix, but point is worth a try. So if it doesn't come with any side effects, then I don't see a reason why not even try it out. So that was probably a slightly longer answer to what you had asked. In terms of the profession, yes, we are now our parliament is actually debating on a mediation bill, right, as we speak. So the conciliation part of the Arbitration Conciliation Act 1996 will be out. It will be just arbitration, because arbitration continues to be looking at an award by a third party, a kind of adversarial position, right? You still need to prove that he's right, I'm wrong, this, that, whatever. But in mediation, of course, the entire concept is different. So we try and take both the parties along with each other. You asked me the codification of mediation bill would help or not. It'll be a kind of I would say a scenario where you will have the positives and the negatives, because there's a lot of creativity which is important once we talk about mediation. Out of the box thinking, totally looking at a solution for the parties, keeping the parties in their mind, looking at their objective, the end and the larger objective. Again, what is right and what's suits both the parties. If it's not suiting one of the parties, then we are not moving ahead. Right. So, but unlike arbitration, it doesn't suit one party, the award always goes normally, favoring one party and probably against the other one. Similarly, these are the court order. So that is probably, the big difference. If I were to say mediation is an art, it's also a science. There's a lot of psychology where one needs to understand about, the human being and like, why we say what we say. We carry our egos and we carry the vendetta and we carry our, settling the score concept and all that. So everything has a, play in this entire thing. Hence, it's an art, how you handle as a mediator, and how you sit in a mediation as a party in dispute as well. So that becomes an art and also a science. But most importantly, I keep saying it's a way of life. It's more important that, I mean, is it important to fight? What do I achieve? What if it doesn't happen? Good money chasing bad money, the importance of time, this, that. I mean, it's not about getting philosophy into it, but important is look at the larger picture. At times it will be important, but litigation to me is only a part of the strategy. It cannot be the strategy itself. So there are times when you need to, like, do, because you are part of a system, you need to kind of, continue, have it on record. You work as, as one of the spokes in this, in the larger wheel. So there is a process, there is an act, there's a statute, and there's a legal department, and like, there's a contract, and everyone has to wait here. All those things are there. So at times, wherever you need adjudication, you need to kind of, settle the query, which is not clear. You need a third party to really interpret and like, put it on record that, yes, this is what it means. This is the way a statute would be understood. This is the way a contract has to be adhered, to be respected, to be honored. Or those things, absolutely, you have to go. But taking a step back, what we are saying is, whenever you have a difference of opinion, try and let it not become a dispute. Try and let it not become a conflict, truly. And trying a balance between the larger, the macro and the micro picture, one can try and explore that, is there a way I can avoid a litigation into serial stuff, or I can avoid fighting? So the very thought, if you have that in mind as a first step in a scenario of a dispute, I think that's a great beginning. So that what probably, that is what we like, keep explaining. And it also, fits in when we say prevention is better than cure. So to that extent, like, it also fits in that, every hour, every time of what you are saying, what you're using to litigate can probably be used better, more productively, more efficiently, without, spoiling a relationship. So if that be the larger thing, what kind of, impacts you, then you are moving towards something called mediation, right? And again, there is no guarantee. Nobody's taking a guarantee that it will always be successful. The way you don't get the orders from a third party always to your advantage. Similarly, I mean, it's not expecting that, you go to mediation and you get what you wanted. But even if it's a half success, I think it really makes a difference and your effort will be worth it. So whether we are discussing, trying, understanding mediation in the context of IBC, as I said, or a commercial dispute, or employment, or family, or community, much prior we understand that this is a concept by itself, mediation, trying to look at an amicable solution if possible. So we don't know if it's possible or not, but if possible, try it out. And of course, with the changing context, few concepts and principles will change. So when we speak about IBC, we'll have to, like, have the lenses of IBC. We know there is a statute. We know this is what we can do. This is what we can't do. We know the boundaries. Within those boundaries, within the procedures which have been, like, prescribed, and the timelines which have been told to us to adhere, can we explore application of some of the principles? What we discussed today is the whole idea, right? Then in terms of the flow, I said, in a way, didn't want to kind of exclusively follow a certain sequence, but what we'll do is, I have a presentation which probably will follow in some time. We'll also take a break, as I said, in between, just a kind of allowing some people to pick up a cup of coffee or a cup of tea. So what we'll do is we'll keep talking about mediation as to what, why, how of it, with a connect to IBC, CIRP, liquidation, and starting with, again, can this be a precursor to the CIRP? Then a small break, and post that, like, and we can continue with the presentation, where I'll also share with you some real life examples within IBC space, what we tried using first principles, using the experience, and it helped. Were we successful all the time, every time? Answer is no. Is it possible? Answer is no. But would I keep trying? Answer is yes. Should you try all the time? Yes, you should. You fail, you move forward. right? But more important is this becomes the first port of call, that if the moment there is some conflict, some difference, some dispute, try it out, use some principles. It works great, you are really helping everyone, yourself and everyone. If it doesn't, then move on the next best alternative or the solution. So I was trying to kind of write as to what exactly a mediation in a slightly detailed way would be. Maybe we can say solutions which are amicably found or accepted by the parties in dispute through a process suitably aided by a neutral called a mediator, which has some features like, as I said, voluntary, flexibility, confidential, and the party autonomy and all, highlighting the features of mediation to both the sides, which would have to be seen from a different lens when we see its relevance and usage in IBC context. So, specific topic, we start with mediation as a precursor to CIRP. Now, what should be the objective? Objective is to promote a non-litigating approach, right? As a beginning. Objective can be to focus on the larger and the end objective. So what is the objective and the larger and the end objective of IBC? A resolution with maximization of the value of the assets for the stakeholders and in fixed or limited timeline what we are given. This is the preamble and this is the larger objective and the end objective. Now, with this objective, an attempt to promote a concept of mediation just by trying to highlight the benefits, advantages, and features of mediation. That's the first step. And the second step would be trying to attempt to promote the same concept of mediation by getting into a comparative mode. If not this, then what? Right? Again, I mean, I'm a, I promote a concept by saying that, okay, if we are good, then why we are good? I just explain this. I don't need to say that we are good because somebody else is bad. Right? How do you justify your relevance is by talking about how relevant you are, what can you do, what is the benefit, what are the features, what are the advantages, what it can lead to, versus a scenario normally where unless until you actually compare it with the second next best option, and that is where you make this more relevant. So in our context of mediation, we have to do both the things. We have to say mediation per se as a concept is a relevant thing. It has its own inherent features, right? So as we say, it's of course, so we'll have to figure out whether confidentiality can really make a difference in IBC, because IBC is proceedings in REM, a lot of stuff is in the public domain. But apart from that, voluntary, flexible, party autonomy, accommodative, non-adversarial, parties getting engaged in this entire process. These are the highlighting features of mediation. And as I said, the relationships are secured, they are saved. On the other hand, if you are to explain someone mediation and he says, okay, if I don't, till the time I was not doing, the world was not coming to end. If I don't do mediation, main nahi karta to kya? Then parallelly, we also need to get into a comparison that, okay, the next best is CIRP. CIRP is an insolvency resolution process. There is a section 7, section 9, section 10. These are the ways the CIRP gets started. Then an officer of the court called an insolvency professional steps in as IRP, eventually becomes the RP. Then there's a creditors committee, financial creditors, they become part of the committee. They practically take over your company. The powers of the board are suspended. There's a lot of stuff which you won't be able to do. Now the entire business, the entire operations comes under the the aegis of the IRP, who works under the supervision of the COC. Now what happens? Your customers, your vendors, the goodwill, everything probably can go haywire. If you are okay, then then maybe next, that's the next best thing which will happen to you. And normally we all keep saying ease of doing business and all. We all understand how difficult it is. So some of you, most of you who have already been an IP, you can understand running a business as a professional right? There's a big difference, right? You may be a chartered accountant, a company secretary, a cost accountant, a lawyer, a management graduate, right? Anyone. You've had your own ecosystem, you kind of studied, got a degree, and you said, okay, I'm good at a particular thing. But the moment you're an entrepreneur, the moment you are running a business, do you really think like, it's going to be as simple as like, you picking up a degree and like, only doing a limited amount of work? As a chartered accountant, all you did was audit and tax. But for an entrepreneur, do you think he has a choice of saying that, okay, I won't, handle production or HR or marketing or, dealing with authorities, right from the shop floor level to the highest of the policy issues, or anywhere and everywhere this guy has to be involved and be concerned about. So see the difference, that an IP becoming a IRP or a RP and running a business, but in the process trying to learn a lot within all those 180 days. That is only from our perspective, but think from the perspective of the promoter who's nurtured this entire business for so long, because of now A, B, C reason, good, bad, ugly, we don't get into that, but now he's facing a problem. Now he has a TIF, there is a cash flow issue, there is some Supreme Court order, some policy issues, some external environment. So I mean, reasons can be any. You figured out like through Vidarbha and through Rainbow, these judgments. Supreme Court also is now starting to get jittery. A simple debt, a simple default, which of course has been the very basis of IBC and the CIRP, has now been challenged. There's that element of discretion being given to NCLT, because somewhere the law was very, look, law as a typical document, it has to be a static document, and then it has to be interpreted in harmony with the changing times. Otherwise, it becomes a static document. So 2016, what got printed day one cannot be relevant when things are changing on the ground. I personally have handled a company which was otherwise solvent. For ABC reason, they didn't pay a particular operational debt. They could not even defend themselves properly at NCLT. Then they went into appeal, half-hearted. I don't know what happened, and it continued. And all those times this was a proceedings in rem, which means if a company gets into CIRP, the application is admitted, be it 7, 9, 10, whatever, then you have to go through the drill. And when we figured out, I came as a replacement to the IRP. So when we said, look, your company is solvent, might as well pay. And so we never had 12A that time, right? We never had anyone, no law, no provision, nothing. I even went to NCLT, the judge separately, discussions, all those things happened. I said, it doesn't make sense for this company to be in CIRP. He says, no, there's a default. I said, but default was one, but default had a reason. In fact, it was a dispute. Now those people wanted a mediation, but probably we had no, options for that. Now, those scenarios were eventually brought to the fore. People at the top, legislator as well as regulator, people understood. Then we had exemptions for MSME, we had 12A coming in. So imagine that, there is this sensitization happening at various levels. And equally important, when we speak about the data of the kind number of cases and the recoveries, as we get to hear from different sources, somebody will come back and say, we have saved 50,000 crores through recovery, through withdrawals. Now, what exactly is a withdrawal? Even prior to application getting admitted, why a withdrawal? This is a fit case. This is exactly what we are discussing, that now when people are seeing that on one side, a professional coming in, trying to manage the show is not easy, right? Bogged down with uncertainty on the timelines and the litigations and the frivolous stuff. But in this entire process, the entire operation and the value of the business going down, apart from the difficulty in handling the business. So even the promoters, the management also are now very sensitive to the fact that if there is a dispute with someone, or if I have to pay someone and we have not been able to agree to something, maybe it makes sense to really sit across the table and figure it out. Because what is the alternative otherwise? Alternative is a section 7, 9 getting admitted. right? And then today, of course, we are talking about a 12A, a situation, which is again like, not, I mean, not easy per se, right? 90% of the COC has to vote for a 12A withdrawal. So this already is happening, but point is, it's not being told the way it needs to be. So a mediation is nothing but a kind of a settlement. And a settlement means that, you had issues with someone, you had to pay money to someone. Why you guys don't sit and resolve? You can always agree on the haircuts, on the disputes, on the qualities, on whatever it is that going forward we'll make the arrangements, look at up, compensation for today's loss to one or the other party. All this can happen, and this is exactly what needs to be told. It's just that by putting these kind of topics today and by the discussions what we are having, it becomes more, I would say, more organized, more clear in terms of that this is what we need to do. This is what we need to tell our clients all around us. This is what we need to promote and endorse as a concept. So on one side, you are talking about mediation in positive sense, that mediation per se is a good thing. Forget about IBC for a moment. Mediation is something which is good as a ADR tool. Now we have a mediation bill in the country, and it's a matter of time, it will become a statute in itself. But look at mediation in isolation, that for every dispute, for every difference of opinion, do you need to go to the court? Do you need to get into litigation? Do you need to get into adversarial and devote your productive time, which you could have used for your business and other good stuff? Now you are fighting it out. A company might say, I have a legal department. It's not important that, because you have a legal department, you necessarily need to fight to keep them busy. That doesn't make sense. It's a cost center. It's a cost center. So paying salary is one, but paying the court fees and fighting it out over the period for years together, is it important? Then we are talking about focusing on business and the relationships, and as we say, businesses are run on relationships. So you fight with someone, you don't do business with them then. And in case you lose, then of course you get into the enmity. And if you win, in any case you have proven a point, but then the probabilities, the uncertainties, the drag what you have. So mediation per se, definitely it makes sense to keep getting promoted. But in IBC context, in CIRP context, you have a very good comparison, that please explore a settlement, please explore a mediation if possible, because if you don't do this, then what follows is admission of the application. What follows is a third party, a stranger, which is officer of the court. He has different, hats. And so you can't be, saying that, okay, I'm cannibalizing my own profession. Now that is where probably we need to also have a small debate. An IP expecting, is expected to tell the party that, a client or a, corporate debtor, a borrower, that please don't fight, don't continue with CIRP, don't explore this dangerous zone, because this can play havoc with this entire operation and the business and the continuity of it. So what happens to the value? You kind of lose. And with 29A and with the lot of uncertainty and the goodwill getting dragged and everything, and a company being under CIRP, the kind of other issues which come with regards to the other departments. And of course, not spoken much, but frankly, we all understand the skeletons coming out of the cupboard. Every person has his own way of running a business. Not easy. That's the reason I kind of told you that ease of doing business is just more of a namesake statement, but on the ground it really requires a different DNA. So anyone who's nurtured that business for so long, earlier the promoters and some probably consultants or together as a team, they should say that they would assume that all the time we'll be able to game the system. At places they've tried and they've been successful, but this is a serious statute. A CIRP, if it fails, right, and if it's failing, right, I mean, you've seen the data, you've seen the statistics, the kind of liquidations which are happening. It's taking time, it's taking years. I mean, we all thought 180 days and then 1 year. It's taking years together. Today, after 6 years, we are speaking about IBC and our exposure and how it has evolved, with the U-turns and everything. So the kind of uncertainty, the kind of litigation, the kind of adversarial approach, the kind of skeletons coming out, out of the board, and the value getting destroyed. So something which is stuck, either resolution plan or liquidation, something which is stuck surely has to go under further deterioration in terms of the value. So this is a comparison versus a scenario where, in case, again, we are not saying it's either or. All we are saying is, in case there's an option, there's a possibility, please explore mediation, please explore settlement. If it's not possible, then it's a fait accompli. If as we say in a CIRP, if it's a failed CIRP, you try your best. If it doesn't work for AB, you can't handhold, you can't drag a resolution applicant, and you can't sit on the COC's head and say, no, this plan needs to get approved. No, you can't. Similarly, you can't, handhold or drag a resolution applicant, say, please come and, put a plan and I'll ensure it gets approved. Nothing of that sort. So a failed CIRP has a liquidation as a fait accompli. Similarly, a failed mediation would have a CIRP getting initiated, and that's okay. But if we don't try, we don't sensitize, we ourselves are not convinced about the concept, then I think we have a gap in understanding. So the whole idea of this topic being, forged into a kind of a curriculum is to sensitize that, okay, we are seeing it from a perspective where as a professional, as an insolvency professional, or a CS or any other profession you're part of, you're saying, okay, we know how IBC works. 6 years now, we see what companies, promoters, shareholders, and all the stakeholders have to actually go through. The pain, the agony, the shame, the value loss, uncertainty, drag, good money chasing bad money. So if it has to be there, then we'll figure out a way to optimize, mitigate the risk and the damage. But if you have an option of not even going that way and finding a solution, then why not? Right? This is the crux of the discussion. So mediation as a precursor to CIRP needs to be definitely explored to the best of your ability. On his own, a promoter is bogged down by so many things. When I say promoter, essentially, I mean management inclusive, right? Be it the board or something. Somebody needs to be telling them, somebody needs to be hand-holding them. Now, the connected question can be like, who are we? At what stage can we become relevant? Why would someone listen to us? Now, that is a part of the discussion, what of course, needs to follow beyond the first stage, where everyone is on the same page, everyone is convinced, yes, it makes sense to explore a settlement or a solution resolution through mediation, if possible. If you're all on the same page, that's the time when we need to kind of, put our head together and say, okay, how? My presentation somewhere will actually, dwell on these aspects. But with regards to the precursor, as a precursor of CIRP, some more discussions which I wanted to have. So as we said, that CIRP under IBC is the first step to explore resolution. Of course, that's the word. The key word is the resolution, maximization of the value, and of course, the minimum possible time. And I said resolution is nothing but a solution to a dispute, but by not making it as a judgment, by actually putting parties in a dispute who are having the dispute sit and say, okay, guys, resolve it. Because what lies in future is more dangerous, more draconian, and IBC is one such law which actually can lead to a death of a company. Who would want that? Would the vendor want the company to die? Would the management want the company to die? But that can be a possibility. And it's not whether you like it or not. It can happen. You may not get a resolution applicant. There might be a forced liquidation. And liquidation always is not leading in a company as selling, getting sold as a going concern 32E. Only 8-10 odd cases in the country till today. We've tried one and it worked, but I think all in all, we have about 8-10, 12 odd cases. So simple point being made is, guys, if possible, please sit, try, explore, because what lies beyond this can be dangerous, can be dark. So sensitization probably can happen through people who are aware of both the sides of the picture. So you are aware of IBC, you are aware of CIRP, what entails, in terms of the process, procedures, and the limitations, and the, and the drag and the uncertainty. if you take a step back and you handhold and you tell them, okay, is this a possibility? Can you explore it? We'll help you explore. I think that is where we are making a difference. Now, so when what we are saying is, when the difference of opinion continues to exist and the disputes do not get resolved, how would we look at a maximization of the value? How would we look at, the timelines getting adhered to? There surely will be litigation which can be termed as a frivolous litigation, but the point is, you've already gone into a different zone, into a different territory altogether. And then there's no looking back. So certainty and the time is the key, and that is where I think the role of a mediation would probably come into it. So as I said, objective being to promote a non-litigating process, objective being to achieve the larger in the end objective, which is like, I wanted to get some money from you. I'm the, you are the borrower, you have to pay me. I don't want your company to get closed. Half the time what is happening? If you really sit with the people and say, okay, what if I can jail this guy, put him behind the bars? What the answer is coming? And that's what the answer we actually expect after people think through. They say, uske jail jaane se mera paisa वापस आता है क्या? Right? That is a statement which nowadays people are realizing and actually saying it. Earlier, initial reaction, what is reaction? Reaction is immediate impact. उसने मेरा पैसा नहीं दिया, the check got bounced, jail. 138 कर दो, ये कर दो, I want him to see behind the bars. Great. Okay, initially, yes, people get together. They make sure they'll do a lot of halla gulla and, hiring the best of the lawyers, influencing the judge, whichever way, impressing on him, and ho gayi jail. And now they all come back happy. Probably cake cutting bhi ho jati hai us din. Next day, the reality starts dawning. And say, what exactly did we do? We had a vendetta. We wanted to take a revenge. The guy is behind the bars. वो पैसा कैसे आएगा जिसके लिए हम लड़ रहे थे? कौन देगा? लॉयर की फीस के लिए इकट्ठा करने के लिए पैसे तो लड़ाई चली रही है. That is a separate discussion, of course. Good money chasing bad money. Now, see the difference here. This is something where you look at a larger picture, and that's where at times I say the reaction versus the response. So response to a situation is, what is the end in the larger objective? You got stuck. Your money got stuck because somebody, right, could not pay you. And there's a spiral, impact of such kind that, one thing leads to another and you are not able to pay somebody else and all. But would you want that company to die? Would you want the company, the people to, go behind the bars? Today's context, even in section 138, we are looking at mediation. Imagine. And at what stage? After 3, 4, 5 years of litigation. And then people are agreeing. So the judges are inviting the parties and saying, why don't you guys settle? And the person who's the, the signatory, he says, I have only 50% at best I can pay. After 5 years, if you say, okay, bahut ho gaya, chalo 50% do, na lena, na dena. Who actually gained out of this entire process? 5 years. एक आदमी जेल होके आ गया, आपने लड़ाई कर ली, सब कुछ कर लिया, everything happened, and after 5 years of struggle and blood pressure and the boil and the uncertainty and the drag and the unproductive time which was spent, and finally you are agreeing at 50%. Do you now think, take a step back, had this been a scenario earlier, the guy would not have gone through a drill. Here we are not talking about, any malified intents and, the siphoning of the cases, siphoning of funds and all. No, that's absolutely beyond the discussion. All I'm saying is, jahan pe ek possibility hoti hai, but if you don't even explore, you are not even willing to sit across with the other party and not even wanting to explore, how would you know whether there's an intent issue? Bonafide hai, malified hai, dena chahta hai, nahi chahta, aapko rupe ka 90 पैसे देना चाहता है. He says कि take 50 now, take 50 later. I'm going through a tough phase. What are the options you have at that time? You still need to eventually, figure out. All those need to be explored. Mediation does not happen because you go with a set mind कि या तो मैं ये लूंगा या नहीं लूंगा. That's not the way it works. The way mediation works is, you go with an open mind. You say, I have a situation, the other party has a situation. You understand his perspective. You try and explain your perspective to him. There is a third party called mediator. He is not vested in the outcome. He is not even concerned, frankly, with the outcome. But the intent is एक दूसरे की समझ लो, लड़ाई से पहले देख लो इज देयर अ सोल्यूशन पॉसिबल। एक और मीडिएशन का मैं आपको हाईलाइटिंग फीचर बताता हूं, which normally we try and we do, and at times it's successful, at times it's not. We look at enlarging the pie before we look at distributing. That becomes qualitative at times and also quantitative. कि नहीं जी, मेरे को तो मेरा आज 100 रुपए का 100 रुपया चाहिए ही है। वो आदमी बोलता है आज मेरे पास 75 रुपए हैं, आज मेरे पास 50% है। यू टेक दिस 50%, आई एम गेटिंग इनटू समथिंग न्यू, व्हाई डोंट यू लाइक do something there, and I can probably help you with something more. You enlarge the pie, you continue the relationship, you look at some different extra bonding which is possible. ऐसे कि हम ये नहीं करते, ये भी कर लेंगे, अच्छा इसको छोड़ दो वो देख लेते हैं, सम क्वांटिटेटिव वर्सेस क्वालिटेटिव और द वाइस वर्सा। अच्छा आप मुझे वो चीज दे दो, मैं इसको छोड़ देता हूं, आप वो वाला हटा दो, मैं ये कर देता हूं, आपके 2 कस्टमर चले गए, मैं वो चीज को मैं रिप्लेस कर देता हूं। दोस थिंग्स आर पॉसिबल ओनली एंड ओनली if you meet, discuss and sit with open mind. That's what I'm saying. It's a way of life, it's an approach to life. This has happened. Otherwise, in a company, normally what happened? Tell me, any mid to a larger company, even in small ones at times, the moment there's a legal department, there is a breach of contract or an agreement or an MOU. Normally what happens? Notice भेज दो, notice भेज दिया, सामने से notice का जवाब वापस आ गया. Now who's talking between the two? Between the two parties in dispute, who actually talks? Only the lawyers or the legal team. I'm not against the lawyers. I'm a lawyer myself. Right? It's not about profession, rivalry or something. जो आपका काम है जब करना है वो करना ही है. Here I'm talking being with the management, beneficiary, the person, the CEO, the MD, the promoter. I'm saying आपने तो बात करी नहीं, एक एग्रीमेंट के एक क्लॉज का, एक कोई एमओयू का एक पर्टिकुलर क्लॉज का एडहेरेंस नहीं हुआ, ब्रीच है, और एक डिफॉल्ट सिस्टम बना हुआ है, आप एक नोटिस भेज दो, वहां से नोटिस आ गया, अब तन गई दोनों में, अब तुम बड़ा नोटिस हो, तुम बड़ा नोटिस, एंड इवेंचुअली आपने एक सूट फाइल कर दिया, उसने काउंटर कर दिया, नाउ विल फाइट इट टिल सुप्रीम कोर्ट. We are even reaching to government departments, including income tax. I've kind of given lectures and programs on IPC as well as mediation. I say, like, why we need to always fight? Of course, in a government, we have a situation where, like, who wants to build the cat? वो बोलते हैं 3 C's का लफड़ा है कि अगर हम कभी छोड़ देंगे तो what's your interest and this and that. It happens, right? That's a limitation, and we're trying to resolve it. Is it easy? I don't know. Would mediation bill change it? I don't know, because again, what I'm saying is mindset का issue है ना. आप एक्सप्लोर तो करो कि यार लड़ना जरूरी है. जब तक सुप्रीम कोर्ट कुछ डिसाइड नहीं करेगा तब तक मैं लड़ता रहूंगा. डिस्ट्रिक्ट कोर्ट टू हाई कोर्ट टू सुप्रीम कोर्ट एवरी टाइम, इधर एनसीएलटी टू एनक्लैड टू सुप्रीम कोर्ट एवरी टाइम. उस दिन किसी ने बोला स्विस रिबन्स की रिव्यू लग गई है, उस दिन किसी ने बोला विदर्भा की रिव्यू लग गई है, वो तो सुप्रीम कोर्ट के लेवल पे भी लग रही है. फिर वेयर डज इट एंड? टिल द टाइम एनसीएलटी डज नॉट चेंज, or it's the order of the NCLT is not objected to in appeal at NCLAT, for you it's a law of land. Similarly, till the time NCLAT order is not challenged at Supreme Court, that continues to be law of land for everyone. So that's a different discussion there. Issue है कि जब जाना है, जब जरूरी है, when we are not left with any other option, तब तो करना ही है. आपने समझाया, किसी ने नहीं समझा, so that's okay. You can't sit on somebody's head. Mediation does not come with a force. You don't go with a gun and say, mediate kar le mere se, settle kar le, nahi to. It doesn't work that way. We keep saying voluntary hai. But जो हम कह रहे हैं, जो हम समझ रहे हैं, उतना कर दें, अगर हम उतना explore कर दें, we are good. So this is just a small a very important concept, but a very small window what we all expect. So we request, we expect, we suggest everyone कि लड़ाई होने से पहले, एक पर्टिकुलर स्टैंड लेने से पहले, कोर्ट में जाने से पहले, नोटिस भेजने से पहले, इफ यू थिंक कि दिस इज अप्रोप्रिएट, इट डजंट कॉस्ट यू एनीथिंग, इट्स अगेन अकिन टू होम्योपैथिक, ट्राई कर लो, शायद कुछ निकल आए. कीप यूजिंग द वर्ड शायद कुछ निकल आए, मे बी समथिंग हैपेंस. एंड इफ यू सी अ पॉजिटिव रिस्पॉन्स, by all means help them. If it doesn't work, then whatever they had thought, whatever is the law of land, whatever is the next best solution, वो करेंगे ही करेंगे. उसके लिए आर्बिट्रेशन करो, लड़ाई करो, कोर्ट में जाओ, बाउंसिंग का चेक लगाओ, 138 का लगाओ, एनीथिंग, फाइल अ सूट, दिस दैट, डू व्हाटएवर. बट ऑल आई एम सेइंग इज जस्ट एक प्रीफिक्स, एक प्रेसिडेंट क्रिएट कीजिए कि ये प्रोसेस शुरू होने से पहले लेट अस एक्सप्लोर. सो सीआरपी क्योंकि हम समझते हैं, यू अंडरस्टैंड द अनसर्टेनिटी पार्ट ऑफ इट, यू अंडरस्टैंड द ड्रैग, यू अंडरस्टैंड गुड मनी चेजिंग बैड मनी, यू अंडरस्टैंड द टाइमलाइंस का किसी के ऊपर कंट्रोल नहीं हो पा रहा है इन स्पाइट ऑफ योर 180 एंड 330 एंड एवरीथिंग व्हाट वी हैव डिस्कस्ड. So this is only from the perspective, I do not have to blame the IBC process to make mediation more relevant or positive. I am saying पहला मेरा काम होना चाहिए साहब, mediation एक concept है जो explore होना चाहिए. उससे क्या होता है, एक solution amicably हम explore कर सकते हैं between the parties who have a dispute, because you are the best guys who understand what the problem is, what is your ask. पार्टीज इन डिस्प्यूट नो कि यार 100 रुपए मेरे बनते हैं, अगर मुझे 70 मिले तो चलेगा, लेकिन कोई क्लेम अपना 100 से कम करेगा? वो 100 के ऊपर इंटरेस्ट भी डालेगा, पेनल्टी भी डालेगा, सारे क्लॉजेस उठा के लाएगा, और फिर हरासमेंट के भी डालेगा, मेंटल एग्री भी डालेगा, और अपनी कॉस्ट भी डालेगा. अग्रीड? तो 100 का क्लेम 150 का बन रहा है, जबकि वो मन में कहता है यार 70 रुपए मिले मैं तैयार हूं. सी द डिफरेंस नाउ, 70 वर्सेस 150. दिस इज द पॉइंट, राइट? 150 के मिलने के चांसेस, कब कितना मिलेगा, जज की क्या उसमें से आउटकम होगा, और सीआरपी का तो आपको पता ही है, हेयर कट किसका कितना होगा, लिक्विडेशन में कहेगा तो मिलेगा कब, द टाइम वैल्यू ऑफ मनी, एवरीथिंग पुट टुगेदर, दैट 150 इज ऑल इन एयर. दैट 70 कुड हैव बीन अ पॉसिबिलिटी. नाउ दैट इज द डिफरेंस, राइट? सो आई एम नॉट ओके. सो आई कीप सेइंग एवरी टाइम दैट आप मेडिएशन को समझो, कॉन्सेप्ट को समझो, कॉन्टेक्स्ट में फिट करो, और उसकी अपनी अच्छाई बताओ, द फीचर्स, द एडवांटेजेस, द इनहेरेंट बेनिफिट्स. मेडिएशन बिल कल को आ रहा है, आप में से कुछ लोगों को अगर अच्छा लगेगा तो आप एक मेडिएशन का कोर्स कीजिए, कुछ ट्रेनिंग लीजिए, यू प्रॉब्ली गेट टू अंडरस्टैंड मोर अबाउट इट. देयर आर दीस 40 आवर ट्रेनिंग्स एंड ऑल, एंड सडनली देयर इज अ गुड फील अबाउट इट. आप कहते हो मैं ये भी करता हूं. नोवेयर आई एम सेइंग कि आप आईपी नहीं हो. जब आईपी का काम है तो आईपी का काम करेंगे, लेकिन आपने मेडिएशन को, उसकी अच्छाई को बताया इन आइसोलेशन, पहले वो बताया, फिर थोड़ा सा एक कहूंगा सेट अनसेट प्रेशर क्रिएट करने के लिए नाउ यू गेट इनटू अ कंपैरिजन कि भाई साहब नहीं अगर नहीं करते देन दिस इज व्हाट इज द नेक्स्ट स्टेप. देयर इज अ सेक्शन 7(9) एप्लीकेशन, ऑफ कोर्स विल हेल्प यू. ऑफ कोर्स उसके अंदर जो अनसर्टेनिटी होगी, कॉस्ट देनी पड़ेगी, फीस लगेगी, कब क्या होगा, एनसीएलटी का होगा, आईपी को भुगतना पड़ेगा, कस्टमर के टेंट्रम्स होंगे, अथॉरिटीज के टेंट्रम्स होंगे. देयर आर दीज इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर कंपनीज वी बीन पार्ट ऑफ. जैसे ही सीआरपी का उनको नोटिस मिला या उनको इंफॉर्मेशन मिली, दे सेंड अ नोटिस कि बॉस इंसॉल्वेंसी में हम ये कॉन्ट्रैक्ट को रद्द करते हैं. वॉइड एब इनिशियो हो गई कई चीजें. How difficult it was for the management to go back, convince that CIRP in India does not mean it's bankruptcy. It's just a process. We can come out as a winner. We can come out from the other end of the tunnel, unscathed properly. But try and explain to the parties. Try and explain to the authorities. Try and explain to the vendors who are not willing to deal with you. You are in CIRP. Try and explain to the customers not willing to pay you now और डील विथ यू. दे आर लुकिंग एट ऑल्टरनेटिव्स कि बॉस इसका पता नहीं कल का. ये सारी चीजें कैसे अवॉइड हो सकती हैं कि भाई साहब अगर सेटल हो रहा था करके खत्म करो ना. 100 का 70 में शायद हो सकता है, आप भी खुश, वो भी खुश, कल से फिर काम चल रहा है आपका. That is where I'm saying the business can go on, the relationships can go on. So there is very clear cut advantage of exploring mediation before CIRP. That is the whole idea of the discussion. I might be taking the longer ways to explain because some examples have to be given, some anecdotes have to be given. And in the interim, because a lot of videos are off, which is okay, but अगर आपके कुछ queries हैं तो आप जरूर पूछ लीजिए. ऐसा ना हो कि सब अपना ऑफ करके अपने अपने काम कर रहे हैं. That probably will be unfair to the effort taken by the institute, I would say. So any queries, any comments, any observations in the interim? बताइए.
Sir, you are saying the pre-mediation is very it should be a legal process rather than it should be a, you can say, but it should be a legal process that mediation should come first, then you go to the insolvency resolution process or any other process, to my mind.
So Mr. Gupta, right? I think you are on the move right now. तो आपका थोड़ा सा, there was a discontinuity in the voice, but I get what you're saying कि इसको legal process बना दिया जाए so that people are sure that this is the first step and then the other steps follow. देखिए क्या है, our minds have been conditioned. Our minds have been conditioned कि जो law है वो तो मैं मानूंगा, लेकिन जो वैसे ठीक चीज लग रही है वो मुझे नहीं पता जब तक मेरे को डंडा ना पड़े कि ये तो लॉ है, आपको मानना पड़ेगा. आप थोड़ा सा चीज को समझें. व्हाट यू हैव सेड इज राइट बिकॉज देन इट बिकम्स इजियर. कहीं कोडिफाइड होगा, कहीं पे लिखा होगा, आईबीबी विल लाइक पुट अ रेगुलेशन दैट बिफोर द सीआरपी, व्हिच इज व्हाट आई एम रिकमेंडिंग. फ्रैंकली अगर आप मेरा प्रेजेंटेशन में देखेंगे, समवेयर आई एम एक्चुअली सेइंग कि जब आप सीआरपी की एप्लीकेशन लगाते हैं, मे बी एट दैट पॉइंट इन टाइम यू हैव टू टेक अ अंडरटेकिंग. सॉरी, गो अहेड.
लोग सर सेल्फ इनिशिएशन जो है ना, the self initiation जो है ना, that you can't expect from every person, but legal process you can expect from every person.
So इसी को कहते हैं डंडे का जोर. इसी को exactly the point I'm saying ना, कि हम ये बोलते हैं देखो जी लॉ है, अगर लॉ नहीं मानोगे तो जी आपको जेल हो जाएगी, पेनल्टी हो जाएगी, ये हो जाएगी. अगर आपको मैं बोलूं कि रेड लाइट को क्रॉस करने से आपकी अपनी जान को खतरा है, कोई फाइन नहीं है, आप कह रहे हो नहीं क्योंकि लॉ तो है नहीं, लेकिन 500 रुपए का मैंने लगा दिया फाइन तो आपकी ब्रेक्स लग जाती हैं लाइन पे. दैट इज द डिफरेंस. आप कंडीशनिंग देखिए माइंड की. व्हाट यू आर सेइंग इज एब्सोल्युटली आई एम विद यू. आई अंडरस्टैंड एंड दैट्स द रीजन आई एम इवन suggesting, promoting, and even my interactions with IBBI or at different forums, I keep saying कि CIRP के एप्लीकेशन में लगा दीजिए एक अंडरटेकिंग कि we tried mediation. कमर्शियल कोर्ट्स एक्ट 2015 के अंदर अब ये इंपॉर्टेंट है सेक्शन 12A के अंदर कि यू हैव टू गिव अ अंडरटेकिंग दैट यू हैव ट्राइड द इंस्टीट्यूशनल mediation prior to filing a suit. Of course it comes with its own caveats and then exceptions and all, वो that kind of dilutes this entire focus. लेकिन CIRP में भी ये मतलब suggestion है मेरा. Let's see. But simple point was, आज we are 62, 63 people minus me and Peer. So we have at least 60 people who are, listening to this. आपके थ्रू अगर आप 5 लोगों को भी किसी भी फोरम पे ये कुछ बताएंगे, समझाएंगे, तो आप ये देखिए ना 60 से 300 तो हो जाएंगे ना. कहीं तो ऐसी शुरुआत करनी पड़ेगी. तो जब तक लॉ आएगा या रेगुलेशन में लिखा जाएगा, till that time at least let's do our bit, because what I have done, if you feel convinced that it makes sense, right, in actually exploring, only thing which I've done is I've given you a scenario. I'm helping you to understand mediation as a concept. I'm helping you to understand its application, and I'm helping you to compare with what lies ahead in case you don't settle. तो भैया लफड़ा होगा, तुम्हारा स्केल्टन्स आउट ऑफ द कबर्ड, फिर तुम्हारी कंपनी जाएगी, गुडविल जाएगी, कल का पता नहीं ये वो सक्सेशन सब उड़ जाएगी. एंड सर्टेन पर्सन से हाँ बात तो ठीक कर रहे हो. देन आई गिव यू अ वेरी स्पेसिफिक एग्जांपल कि मैं 100 का 70 में यहाँ सेटल करने को दोनों पार्टीज तैयार हैं, लेकिन क्लेम्स में वो 150 रुपए की लड़ाई हो रही है और शायद 50 भी नहीं मिलेंगे. स्पेशली लड़ाइयां कहाँ पे हो रही हैं, और यहाँ पे हम एफसी और ओसी की बात नहीं कर रहे, बट आपको पता है ना ओसी की सिचुएशन क्या है आईबीसी के अंदर. ठीक है, तो आप ये देखिए, अगेन इट्स नॉट टू से कि ओसी के लिए मेडिएशन रेलेवेंट है और बैंक्स के लिए नहीं है, बट बैंक बीइंग अ सिस्टम, ओसी बीइंग मोर ऑफ अ वेंडर हु विल प्रोबब्ली टेक अ कॉल, राइट. पीएसयू सिस्टम्स की अलग कहानी है. दे नीड टू बी ट्रीटेड डिफरेंटली एंड देयर नीड्स टू बी अ डिफरेंट मैकेनिज्म, डिफरेंट माइंडसेट, डिफरेंट अप्रोच, एसओपीज, क्या कैसे होना चाहिए, कमिटीज होनी चाहिए, उसमें भी हम लगा रहे हैं दिमाग, कोशिश करते हैं. लेकिन इन द इंटरिम एटलीस्ट जो हो सकता है, जो लो लाइंग फ्रूट है, उसको तो पकड़ के शुरुआत तो करें. और जिसको टेस्ट आता रहेगा ना उसका, दे बाय डिफॉल्ट विल बिकम एंडोर्सर्स एंड द एम्बेसडर्स कि हाँ जी आपको करने में क्या तकलीफ है. आप अकेले नहीं होगे, 5 लोग और इकट्ठा बोलेंगे तो सडनली देयर विल बी सम वॉइस. So that is absolutely the whole idea. Anyone else has comment, observation to make? I'll continue in any case otherwise.
Hello sir.
हाँ जी.
I want to know how the mediation works in the banking sector. Most of the banking NPAs are mounting. So that is NPA, the default rates are there. How can we you use this in practical to the banking sector?
Okay, so साहब दो चीजें हैं इसमें. Frankly, if I were to say OTS, right? OTS, how would you define it? OTS is almost a crooked way of mediation. What we have tried to do is we have still tried to, put some straight lines कि OTS करेंगे इतने % पे नहीं करेंगे, पहले इतना पैसा दे दो तो कर लेंगे, फिर ये कर लेंगे. Essentially, this was nothing but a settlement. OTS में S तो settlement ही है, one-time settlement. Now, one-time settlement में the only problem which currently I have, again, I'm speaking my mind. I understand as a body, as a system, it's not easy for people to keep using the discretion, because the moment you give discretion, you can understand that, where it leads to, right? So that of course is one, but otherwise, if you see, OTS essentially means the banks, the lenders, they are privy to the fact that the borrower is not in a position to pay you, right? Because of ABC reason. Because if it's a willful defaulter, then you wouldn't do even an OTS with him. So separate. We are only talking about cases where you are privy to the fact that because of ABC reason, which are not fraudulent reasons, which do not have malified intent attached to it. Now, these situations can be explored for OTS. Now, which means that you are willing to explore a settlement. So you are willing to sit across the table, which means that there is a possibility and there is an acceptance of the fact. Now, the only concern continues to be that because it's very difficult for a bank as a system, as an organization to create a different policy for a different situation for different people. So within OTS, they also draw straight lines that, इतना % पहले दे दोगे, इतना आपको फिर 1 महीने में देना है, फिर इतना होगा, इतने % से कम नहीं कर पाएंगे, all those things. Now, even these percentages, I'll tell you, at times, somebody would want to pay you 80% instead of 100, but your norm say 50% पे minimum आपको देना है. This guy will be more than happy, right? Though he'll always start with 30% because he knows your benchmark is 50. So he'll start with 30, but probably he can pay 80. On the other hand, there is a very genuine party who can actually turn around the business, this, that, by paying 40, but not 50, what you want. But you are now saddled with a particular policy which comes from the top, and you are one peg in this entire system in the wheel, where you can't go to the board and say, this guy is genuine, I've been dealing with him for 10 years. He's actually helped the bank, on interest and this and that. He's been everything doing on time. But today he can only pay 40%. He can't pay 50 as per the norms. So the option is, I can't help it. The guy is genuine. So the only option left for him is probably CIRP karega, ye karega, wo karega types, right? So simple point, the very fact that there's a OTS in a banking system means there is an acceptance of a word called settlement, and mediation means settlement. It does. Only thing is, because of a system, you can't give discretion to people at different levels. So my view was, rather than working on something which is specific thresholds, try and work in a range, right? Give some leeway to people at the dealing level. So if a SAM branch in a particular bank has to deal, then probably a committee, 3 people, right? They interact, they evaluate, they negotiate, and then they all 3 sign. So basically there will be times when instead of 50, you are able to get 80. And at times, instead of 50, you actually had to agree for 40. So give them a range. Probably it will work. But again, most important would be, if we are all changing our way, it's an approach, or we are changing our mindset, then this probably can be stretched further, and we can have more ways to, help a better recovery. So this was probably, an answer to the query. Now we have seen, are you good with this?
Yeah, I got it.
Okay,
But one problem is that the change in the policy of the banks is, am I right?
No, so the policy is there about OTS, right? That policy continues to be there.
Yeah.
There are the larger policies within which you have to frame your own specific policies of the banks, which are all described and prescribed by RBI. Yeah. But then within those norms, you can have your own specific policies. So you can't go beyond what RBI would tell you as the main regulator, but within those boundaries, within those broader policies, I'm sure you have some leeway to try and make it happen. But simply, so simple point again would be that I keep saying within mediation as a concept, the creativity and the flexibility is the key, because you have to think out of the box. For example, in a lot of these scenarios, equity is taken as no, clear no. But equity can give you an upside. Okay, you may not want to attach any value, but probably try and have a system, a mechanism whereby probably create a specific vertical in the bank who will only explore the equity part. So if somebody is willing to give you, ki boss aaj 100 ki jagah aap take 60 from me, but I'm happy to give you some equity. If you already don't have the shares pledge and all those things, you see a value. You are seeing India, you are seeing 2024 elections, you're talking about 5 trillion economy, you're seeing. So as a banker, you understand, you get the analysis, you get the analyst report, you're looking at the larger economic data, everything is with you. You know which industry is going to perform which way and all those things happening, right? So if there is a possibility of picking up 1% and 2% is something as an add-on to whatever you are foregoing today, and you keep it and don't attach any value. Tomorrow, it just as typical a VC model. VC, of course, is investing money, and 1 out of 10 will be a multi-bagger for them. Similarly, all I'm saying is, you say, okay, this guy means business. He's a genuine guy. We've gone through details. We've seen his facilities. We've met his vendors and the customers. Everything looks okay. There is no harm in allowing him OTS at 40% instead of the norms 50. Because in addition, he's giving us 5% equity. Okay. So on one side, you are giving him the breather, a bit of long rope. Take that 5% and put it in some kind of a channel and all, and let it be there. So out of 10, 20, 50 odd people, if you have 10, which become multi-bagger and tomorrow they list and all, that's okay. It's all commercial, right? Why we should say, ye main nahi karta, wo nahi karta, main to khali dead. So everyone is doing everything. Till today, ARC was not allowed to become a ARC as a resolution applicant, pick up equities and all. They were only taking the assignments. Now RBI is thinking. There have been a couple of circulars, so I'm sure there'll be some changes very soon. So the need of the hour is, let's kind of do away with the blinkers, and we say, okay, when the scenario on the ground has changed, it's all dynamic, it's all volatile, the things have changed, new tech is there, artificial intelligence is being used. Why can't we start thinking differently? Again, for the end and the larger objective. End objective, maximum recovery. Every time, which bank is happy to kind of go to the government seeking recapitalization? Itna write off ho gaya, utna ho gaya. Kuch apni taraf se bhi kariye. Apni taraf se jaake proposal dijiye. Now there'll be a scenario where somebody will say, no, don't come with me, with all stupid this thing, because it's the government who decides. That's okay. Somebody will have to start talking, and something will come out of there. So these are again, out of the box thinking. I'm not saying everything works, but point is, if we don't speak, we don't say, we don't discuss, then for sure nothing's going to work. Then we are all kind of saddled with our age-old thing. Ye to policy bani hui hai, can't go left and right. So that was it. Anyway. Yeah, so as I said, 12A was brought in, and earlier these were proceedings in REM. So 12A was brought in. Now, so many cases which get withdrawn in 12A. Don't you see a very good reason here that mediation becoming a precursor to CIRP really fits in? Otherwise, kya hota hai? You yourself can be an IP, right? आपका नाम लिया गया, आपका consent लिया, चाहे वो 7 थी, 9 थी, जो भी थी. अब 6 महीना 1 साल लग गया, आपने तो कंसेंट दिया हुआ है, you have no locus to even actually say anything till the NCLT does not accept the application and then appoint you. Your appointment as an IP only happens on the order of admission. Now that is what happens, and suddenly the promoter, the management gets a cold feet. Now they're saying, nahi, jaldi baat karke, let's try and speak to the applicant and we'll agree for a settlement. This, that, us checker mein mahina, 1.5 mahina ho jata hai, COC aapko jabardasti karni padti hai, you do a COC, then they are saying, we are agreeing for a settlement, 12A kariye. Now, see, your consent given about a year back in today's context, that's the time it takes. 1.5 साल पहले की आपकी consent दी हुई, जैसी admission हुई, suddenly somebody has actually told them, boss ये क्या कर दिया आपने, कंपनी चली जाएगी, नया आदमी आ जाएगा, ये वो, power suspended, goodwill गई, company खत्म, all those things, and They are willing for a settlement, and now they're on your back saying 12A karwa do. Aapne 12A, of course, you don't have an option, right? As an IP, you have to go. You file an application with 90% voting, COC, you go, and it's like, discarded, CRP over. Is this what you wanted, being an IP? 1.5 साल से मैं कंसेंट देके बैठा हूं, मुझे तो पता नहीं था आगे के लिए मेरे को लोग रखने थे, पूरी मैनेजमेंट प्लान बनाया था, आई प्लानिंग, आई डू दिस, आई सेव अ कंपनी दिस वे. बट इफ दैट इज द वे द कंपनी हैज टू गेट सेव, might as well we don a different head of a mediator and we actually tell them at the time of the consent that is this the only way or we can settle. After all, आप ही लोग ये हो. That IP himself, जिसका consent था, he is the only guy who is going to file an application under 12A and go to NCLT and say, okay, कल से तो फीस नहीं मिलेगी, जो महीने डेट की मिलेगी applicant से. So here, just to answer a question which is not asked, am I cannibalizing my own thing? If I'm as an IP, I become a mediator, I say कि मत लड़ो, मत CRP करो. I'm saying just put a sequence. पहले होनी चाहिए कि जो एप्लीकेंट से बात हो रही है, whosoever is coming to you for a consent, can you broker a deal between them? Can you actually help them settle through mediation? If that is the case, then the chances are much higher कि ये तो अगर निपट गया, you should get your fees, of course. Now that is where we have to put some kind of a mechanism in place. Otherwise, the chances are the moment it gets admitted, whenever it does, then 12A is happening, and then you are left high and dry in any case. So 12A has come for a reason, because even the regulators and the legislator thought that yaar, agar ye khatam hi ho sakta to itni lambi drill kyun karni hai? But don't you think this is exactly a U-turn from a situation where these were proceedings in REM, irrespective, whatever happens, the moment application is admitted, you have to go through the drill and come out only from the other side. You can't retract. A 12A is a retraction. And I gave you an example when we actually handled a company which was solvent. We never had this option, right? So we had to go through a drill, and all those are a separate story. Similarly, we have no exceptions to 29A and C and H and 240 only for MSMEs. So this is, diluting the law in a way for a different purpose. That purpose today we are discussing differently. So they have gone ahead and retracting. We are saying इससे पहले कि शुरू करें, why can't we explore? MSME is the same scenario. MSME more often than not becomes a vendor or operational creditor. आपको CD ने पैसा नहीं दिया, आप आगे पैसा नहीं दे पाओगे, वो आगे नहीं दे पाएगा, rippling effect है. Can we look at a settlement? People will be happy, I can bet. Because more and more people, when they understand about IBC and the, and the uncertainties and all, of course, on one side, the law has to evolve, giving certainty, working on merit within timelines, appreciating the time value of money, all that is there. But till the time that's not happening, people are now scared as well. And it is at times doing more harm than any benefit. When you are stuck in a CRP or a process, you can't do much. Moratoriums hain, the main team is not, active, the powers are suspended, a lot which could have been done is not being done. 180 दिन की बात होती, 180 days, इस पार या उस पार, 2 साल, 3 साल चलेगा. That is a huge time, a long time where you suffer on in terms of the business and the operations. So that was it. Now, again, linking, maybe another 5-7 minutes to this particular sentence of mediation, a precursor to CIRP. So when balance sheets are stressed, when cash flows are tightening, when defaults are imminent, when intention is still genuine, when all is not yet lost, when goodwill can save you, when trust is still not broken, when your vendors and customers are still talking to you, when you have faced, all you have faced is probably a legal notice or a demand notice as yet under 7, 8 or some other statute, when all you have is probably a 13(2) notice under SARFACI, when your first check is actually kind of gone back unpaid, right? Don't you think this is the time to think macro about future, about your intent? This is the time to start introspecting and write it down on a piece of paper, probably in a single sentence. What do you want? Or rather, what do I want? Which would mean if you say peace, continuity, goodwill, satisfaction, then I think you are good for a discussion, for a settlement. But if you say, I'm happy to continue the way things are, I live with uncertainty, then of course, something else needs to be the treatment for you. So that is where I think we need to kind of try and conclude with regards to mediation as a precursor to CIRP. Now, I would say it's not about giving up, but about accepting the situation and making the required amends. It's less about the pace, but more about the direction. It's about taking a pause and then restarting. It's about the required cooling off and a possible overhauling. It's about revisiting your objectives and vision. It's about rethinking about your entire ecosystem. And then you take the most important initiative and you say, I want to resolve. I want to settle. I want to explore mediation. And if that be the case, my suggestion, my request to you is help the client through this journey and be a hero yourself, or at least be the director for him. So that was, the first part of the discussion where we are saying mediation as a precursor to the CIRP. Now, my suggestion at 3:30, we can take a 10-minute break, right? You want a coffee or tea or whatever, so 3:32, let's come back at 3:45, if that's okay, Pete.
Yes.
Right, and 3:45 we'll start with the presentation. So some of it definitely I've already covered, because that's the way kind of it works, and rest of it will come through a certain sequence through a presentation. Again, happy to get interrupted, and you can ask something which you can think about what I said now. If it's making sense, you want further deliberation, whichever way, we'll figure it out. Right, sir? So we see each other at 3:45, 10-minute break.
Thanks.
Okay, thank you.
Hello. Oh. अच्छा अच्छा ठीक है। हाँ सर, इसमें ये बाकी तो ये है ना, तो
नहीं पार्टिसिपेंट नहीं, आवाज क्यों नहीं आ रही, कुछ भी नहीं आ रहा है। फिर से लॉग इन किया था,
जी सर।
तो लिंक भेज।
Okay. Okay, so 3:45. I'm back. My cup of tea is coming. On the way, when it comes, I'll start sipping in. आप अपने अपने कप लेके बैठ जाइए. अतुल जी, आप तो कुछ मंचिंग कर ही रहे हो अकेले अकेले चंडीगढ़ में बैठ के. Good. No, so we've not been able to hear you because of course you were on mute. बताइए क्या खा रहे हैं, पता तो चले.
Well, gulab jamun.
अरे बाप रे. पीर, ये आपके पास अरेंजमेंट होना चाहिए कुछ फॉर अ वेबिनार. लेकिन हाउ वुड यू एंश्योर दैट पीपल गेट द सेम.
पूरी तैयारी करके बैठते हैं.
सीरियसली. बट ऐसा नहीं होना चाहिए कि यू नो सम पीपल थिंकिंग सब बोरियत का टॉपिक है तो अपने साइड में नेटफ्लिक्स पे कुछ चीज चल रही है उनकी, मुझे म्यूट में डाल के सुन कुछ और रहे हैं. वो नहीं करिएगा.
I think we were all listening very intently, and I think just a thought that came to me was, just like mediation happens in the court, means while the court processes are on, you know, the parties can request for a mediation.
Yes.
And the things are put on hold.
Yeah.
And likewise, you know, we could have a set of mediators, IP mediators on the side.
Yeah.
And if the parties ever feel that they need to get into mediation, they could request AA कि हमें थोड़ी देर के लिए भेजो. So not only the IP who is otherwise running the process, but another IP as a mediator comes in, a fresh, you know, pair of eyes and thought.
Right.
And in case things can be resolved. So it was just a thought that occurred that makes something like
absolutely. I'll tell you what you've just said, you'll actually find that already in the presentation somewhere as a suggestion, because these things need to be thought through. होगा क्या, there'll be a view कि no, these are proceedings in rem. अब आप लोग दो लोग बात करना चाह रहे हो तो mediation किसके बीच में होगा? You know, now since it has started and the CIRP is actually running, now public announcement हो गई, दुनिया को पता है, claims आ गए, international level पे चल रहा है. So how I can put a stop to everything, you know, what happens to 180 days. So it has to be thought through. Then we are talking about IP mediators. Absolutely, it's a good thought, because that's again what I wanted to say, that maybe, you know, mediation की लोग जब बोलते हैं कि as a mediator you need 40 hours, this, that. I am saying कि नहीं, हमें अपने IP भाइयों के लिए, मतलब for the community, I think, you know, Peer as a, you know, representative, you can take it back as a feedback that जब अगली बार आप लोग कुछ ट्रेनिंग या कोई इस टाइप से करते हो तो just 1 day और a half day का एक अच्छा मॉड्यूल बना के we should sensitize them to start thinking like a mediator. It's not about कि वो mediator उनको अपना career के लिए करना है. This is only with the context of IBC. तो एक लिमिटेड मॉड्यूल बन जाए कि यहाँ पे आप एक्सप्लोर कीजिए, एंड दिस माइट हेल्प सम पीपल, और जिसका आगे इंटरेस्ट होगा, इफ दे लाइक इट, देन absolutely go ahead with 40 hours and be a mediator yourself, and nobody stops you. And with mediation bill coming in, pata chala ek naya profession gets a lot of push. So absolutely well taken.
So
And
because not all IPs want to take up assignments now. Either they don't have the bandwidth because the requirements have gone up so high, but they are very well poised to continue to be independent mediators, and they do have the bent of mind of looking at from a resolution, from a solution point. You need to solve things.
नहीं, तो ये वाली जो आप बात कर रहे हैं, this slightly goes into a different tangent, and maybe I can just take 2 minutes. तो उसके अंदर क्या है कि this is the discussion we had, like just last week amongst a group of professionals who met in Delhi. And the same discussion we are going to extend it on this Friday again, as a small group we are meeting. So essentially what the premise is that not every IP wants to be an IP per se in practice. We all have a degree in CA and law and cost accounting and CS and this and that. It does not mean कि आपके पास CA की डिग्री है तो आपको CA की प्रैक्टिस करनी है. Right? Once you have a knowledge about a chartered accountancy or a course or a tax angle or a audit angle, or understand how to read balance sheet, similarly a CS and similarly a lawyer, then there are different ways to contribute in the space. Right, in that particular space. Similarly, so I'm encouraging IPs कि आपने डिग्री ली, आपने पढ़ा, आपने समझा, probably किसी ने कुछ cases किए, and some continues to do it, some are in a dilemma to continue or not because of the requirements or whatever reason, and some people even didn't start. Some people didn't renew their AFAs and some are continuing. So there is a whole mix, right? मैं ये बोलता हूँ कि since you've spent some time, you understand much better than a layman on the street. You understand IBC. IBC is still not something which is understood by many people. IBC is still not understood by many stakeholders in terms of the impact, in terms of the repercussions, right? Why not try and find different roles and say, we'll help in awareness, in sensitization. Some people might be good in training. Some people might be good on workshop. Some people might be part of a process advisory. They're happy. And someone says, okay, मैं AR बन जाऊंगा, or someone says, so being an IP, you can still do so many things connected to IBC space, not necessarily कि जब तक मैंने केस नहीं किया तब तक मेरी IP की relevance नहीं है. So this is something we are wanted to, take it further as a discussion point probably this Friday. And let's see, all this is happening, the new setup we spoke about, insolvency clinic and all that. And the idea is that maybe more and more people join in the sense, to contribute. So it's engagement, it's participation, and then spread the word. You will be surprised that I got to know countries from Scandinavia, some countries in Middle East, and countries like Sri Lanka. They have approached India, especially IPS and all that. They're saying कि boss, आप लोगों ने इतना अच्छा IBC कर दिया. Look, they have not heard the ugly stories also, but that's largely to aapko ek country ke andar, if you come out with a legislation and which does this kind of a success, and what is the crown, the jewel in the crown is the Bhushans and the Videocons and these SR Steels, they have changed the ownership. So that means IBC has made a dent. Now Supreme Court coming heavily, promoters paradise laws, this thing. So these things do take attention from across the globe. So there are these countries who say कि please help us in devising a law. अब मैं बोलता हूँ जो आपके हमारे IPs हैं, why are they not good at this? आपको पता है क्या, क्यों, कैसे, और अब तो हमें और लोगों का भी मदद करना चाहिए, अपना भी करना चाहिए. It's not that कि हम बैठ जाएं. Today, this mediation thing is actually a kind of a slight change if it happens in the IBC at the right stage, in CIRP, liquidation, wherever. Don't you think IBC will be more effective? Answer is yes. आपकी बेकार की चीजें जाएंगी नहीं अंदर तो टवेले के लफड़े नहीं होंगे, तो आपने CIRP से पहले मेडिएशन कर दी. अब पॉइंट ये होगा कि क्या आपको उसका पैसा मिलना चाहिए? आंसर इज 101% मिलना चाहिए, right? Because you have a role there. You are helping avoid undue pressure on NCLT. You are helping avoid a frivolous litigation. You are helping avoid an unnecessary proceeding, so that their productive times actually is used for 12,000 odd cases which are pending at NCLTs. इन चीजों को छोड़ो ना. तो all and then at the day, like professional को तो बहुत important उसका contribution है ना to make the law effective. How would SOPs and the practices evolve? NCLT अपना काम कर रहा है, IB भी अपना काम कर रहा है, IU भी कुछ अपना काम कर रहा है. तो जब वो बाकी वो कर रहे हैं 3 pillars, तो अपने पिलर को, the fourth important pillar which actually does the work on the ground, we should be more proactive but make ourselves heard. Now what is happening is, because of the structure is such, I resist not saying, but I still say कि 4 पिलर में 3 टायर ट्रक के हैं और एक आपका मारुति 800 का है, तो प्रेशर तो मारुति 800 के ऊपर आता ही है ना, छोटे टायर के ऊपर. तो वो थोड़ा सा सिस्टम कब चेंज हो जाए, कैसे हो जाए, आई थिंक वील हैव टू रियली वर्क टुवर्ड्स इट. 6 years, how old or how young we would say the law is, but काफी चीजें चेंज हुई भी हैं और कुछ चीजें होंगी भी. Till the time the government is listening and we are having amendments and tweaks and procedural changes and all, I think it's a good sign that there are people who are sitting, who are wanting to hear and make the changes as and when required. So anyway, yeah, that was good you raised it. Acha, anyone else who wants to make any observation? या सब काफियों के लिए बोरियत थी, थोड़ा सा चेंज करेंगे अपना स्टाइल. आई डोंट नो what else I could do, but then I'll get going with the presentation. Anyone has anything to add or observe or make a comment or something like that? Anyone? Out of 64 people, 66 minus 2, no one. Okay, इससे क्या होता है, पता चलता है, या तो सबको सब कुछ समझ आ गया, या सबको कुछ भी समझ नहीं आया. तो उन्होंने कहा ठीक है यार, तुम 1-1.5 घंटा बोल लिए, 1 घंटा और रह के जल्दी से बोलो, उसके बाद हम अपने अपने काम में जाएं. Anyway, so even if that be the case, we are good with this. What I'll do is I'll now share the screen, and Peer, I think I have this option to do that.
Yes, sir, you can
Right?
share.
Okay, so what I'll do for the benefit of the audience, that
one point.
Haji, please.
One point is,
yeah,
the out of court settlement is there, and also is any relevance with the mediation?
So देखिए, settlement of any kind is a amicable solution which is found by the parties on their own, right? Settlement word itself, क्योंकि settle हो गया, लड़ना नहीं है हमने. So if you don't have to fight, you don't have to litigate, you don't have to continue the process in the court where a third party would have told you कौन ठीक कौन गलत, and they would have passed an order. You said नहीं, आप रुक जाइए, हम अपने आप कर लेते हैं. Now normally what happens is, out of court settlement has a larger connotation. It can happen for many reasons. एक तो the moment you say out of court, यानी कोर्ट में आप गए तो थे, लेकिन आप सेटल कोर्ट के बाहर कर रहे हो. सो जब आप कोर्ट में गए थे, देन यू अपेरेंटली थॉट मैं जीत जाऊंगा, मैं सामने वाले को रगड़ दूंगा, मैं ये कर दूंगा, मैं वो कर दूंगा. राइट? ओवर द पीरियड यू फिगर्ड आउट कि उसको तो मैं रगड़ रहा हूं या नहीं रगड़ रहा, बट मैं खुद रगड़ा जा रहा हूं. राइट? मुझे नहीं पता मैंने उसको कितनी तकलीफ पहुंचाई, बट मेरे को भी तकलीफ हो रही है. बिकॉज समवेयर व्हेन इट्स अ सेटलमेंट, देन बोथ द पार्टीज एक्चुअली अग्री टू अ सेटलमेंट, which means both the parties see the relevance in settlement, which also means that now they don't see a relevance in fighting it out continuously, whether it's because of the uncertainty, whether it's because of the drag, whether it's because of the delays, whether it's because of the fees of the lawyers, whether it's because of the timelines, right? और कि blood pressure बढ़ गया, succession आ गया, दादाजी ने शुरू करी थी लड़ाई, पिताजी भी चले गए, अब तो लड़का लड़ रहा है. It can be anything. But somewhere you've appreciated the fact that that initial boil what you had and the vendetta, कि मैं ये कर दूंगा, वो कर दूंगा, और you were advised accordingly. Over the period, it comes out that it doesn't make sense. So why don't we settle? One, whether it's through the nudging of the judge, or maybe your lawyer, or maybe you have better sense prevailing, or you get a dream overnight, or there is a some elder who puts in that thought in you. Why? 5 years and 10 years and 2 years and whatever time. Why? What is coming out of it? So it can be anything, but the simple word I'm making is out of court means you've been to the court and now you have a second thought for whatever reason, and now you're saying out of court settlement करके हम जज को बताते कि भाई साहब we are good. I keep saying before you go to the court, and that is what makes it more challenging. क्योंकि कोर्ट में जाके देयर इज अ फटीग फैक्टर व्हिच क्रीप्स इन ओवर द पीरियड. जब पैसे खत्म हो गए, टाइम खत्म हो गया, आपने अपना समय, मतलब योर गुड पार्ट ऑफ लाइफ हैज बीन स्पेंट ऑन दिस थिंग, दैट इज अ फटीग फैक्टर आल्सो, वेयर यू आर लेफ्ट विद नॉट मच ऑप्शन. सो यू से अच्छा मैं कर लेता हूं सेटलमेंट, या जज ने कहा एंड यू थॉट कि चलो किसी ने बोला तो मेरी ईगो इतनी थी कि मैं अपने आप नहीं बोलना चाहता, बट जज ने कहा तो मैं मान लेता हूँ. इट कैन बी एनीथिंग. ऑल आई एम सेइंग इज व्हाई नॉट, व्हाई नॉट, एज किसने एक मूवी में कहा था, काउंट टिल 10. जब गुस्सा आता है तो डोंट इमीडिएटली डिसाइड, बट वट एवर इट इज, सिंपल पॉइंट आई एम मेकिंग इज व्हाई नॉट टेक इट एज योर फर्स्ट port of call as an option. Maybe better sense prevails, maybe. So उस केस में क्या होता है साहब, the problem remains on your own to have a perspective, on your own to have a second a view, on your own to think differently becomes difficult when you are actually in the midst of a dispute, when the tempers are running high, when your rational thinking gets jeopardized. I would say that is where a mediator helps, because a mediator is not vested in the outcome. Mediator may or may not know you. Mediator has probably, assuming he's otherwise a trained guy or a decent guy who understands, because आज से पहले जब mediation की इतनी बात नहीं होती थी तो we used to go to the elders. पंचायती क्या होती है पंचायत में या village में, you go to the elders and they help you resolve. Simple point I'm saying, the relevance of a third party in between, who's a neutral, who's impartial, who apparently, if is also trained, it makes sense for him to be there because he helps you. All he does is he handholds you to see a perspective, a different perspective, use a different lens, see the same situation but differently. So he nudges you to think differently कि ठीक है जी, लड़ते हैं, अच्छा वकील हायर करते हैं, ऐसा करेंगे, लेकिन साहब एक मिनट के लिए सोचो, अगर ये नहीं होता, 4 करोड़ केसेस लटके पड़े हैं, आपका भी लाइन में लग जाएगा. You are at a very crucial stage. You have your business coming up, you have this, your child is about to get married, you have this problem with the family, or you are about to get a funding, you are on a cusp of revolution, this thing, all thing. क्या आप लड़ना चाहोगे? Do you think you have the wherewithal? How long you have to fight? And the best part, do you what is the end and the larger objective? And the bottom line continues to be, do you value relationship? कि लड़ना मरना ही है. So all those things, when they are told to you by a third party who's otherwise not, because he'll do it objectively, for him it's like, he's since you consult him or whichever way, this guy has to share his views. So he's objective in saying that this is what it is. So please have it, a different angle to look at this. वो सब जब चीजें होती हैं, they happen prior to getting into a litigation. But I'm totally with you and I'm totally with everyone that at any stage, before even the judgment happens or the award is passed, orders are passed, if the parties agree for whatever reason, then you should and you can definitely opt for settlement. Just give it a thought कि अगर सबसे पहले कर दिया, then you've not even got into a drill. कई बार कई चीजों से निकलना मुश्किल हो जाता है, और it takes its own sweet time. So see if it's feasible to try and make it as a first port of call कि हम एक बार mediation try करते हैं, settlement का mechanism try करते हैं, नहीं हुआ तो हम लड़ेंगे, लड़ते हुए अगर दिमाग में आ गया तो दोबारा हम settlement कर लेंगे या mediation कर लेंगे, but let's not lose that option day one. So that is again a longer answer to what you asked. So I'm sharing a screen. This is a presentation about 80-90 odd slides. Some of it will be repetition, so I won't spend much time on this. But in case anyone has any specific thought, observation about any point which is which appears or finds inconsistent, aap bataiye. We'll be happy to share this.
Yes, sir. My name is Vijayendra Kumar Mishra.
Bataiye ji.
And with regards to mediation, I have one point in my mind.
Go ahead,
because limitation law. Suppose in case we go and file a case under IBC, and where practically I am experiencing, we have filed a case against OC in the month of prior to this COVID.
Right.
And since the corporate debtor is a bigger one, and they have capacity to pay, but they have lingered on the thing for 3 years, I tell you. We have got a confirmation in the year 2018 But till date, even in filing as a case as an OC, the case is going on. But fortunately, recently we have settled for principal amount. That is okay. Had we, in this similar situation, in case we opted mediation, then, and the same thing, because when corporate debtor, which is a better financially established, when they drag the issue for really long 3 years or so, means COVID also ended at 21st April thereafter.
Right.
So the basic thing which goes against the mediation is, suppose limitation law allows that after 3 years we can't do. And anyway, corporate debtor used to drag the issue for 1 year or two, because non-payment arises only when after 3 months or 6 months or 1 year. If the corporate debtor doesn't pay me, then only I used to wake up that, okay, why payment is not coming? Yes, we have to sit for negotiation. And mostly in most of the cases, when OC used to give the material on credit, means it only happens then corporate debtor may be a bigger in size, raw material suppliers. Okay. So in that case, most of the time we don't have access even to reach to corporate debtor. We are writing, I have experienced that I have writing 10 mails we have written, but they did not respond until we filed the case, and thereafter the case come up on hearing. So the basic thing is, in case of mediation, suppose we opted to do so, 1 year or 6 months or 8 years we have left in writing the mail. And law of limitation is another thing. After 3 years, we are unable to do so. So by filing a case against OC, though, in case as per IBC, OC is, in my opinion, suicide bomber, because once the case is admitted, he has nothing to get. That is also true. But in case a corporate debtor is a better one, then because I have certainly, the case is likely to settle. Yeah. So prior to settlement, prior to IBCR, prior to going to the court, it means law of limitation one way or other. If they drag the issue for 1 year or two, suppose I started from 1 year and 2 years are only in my hand. And we used to go and approaching the corporate debtor, we used to lose type 6 months. Thereafter, we sit together 30% out of 1.5 crore, we got 50 lakhs. And again, the limit has come down and we have nothing to get, even if we don't in this mediation. So this is, as per my perception, is a negative thing. And it is ideal that we have to go for a negotiation table. But sir, in this case, because most of the corporate debtors, they are playing with the money of suppliers, whereas at the same time, they are utilizing the limit from the banks. So it means they are getting finance from the raw material because of non-payment or all those things. So, and they are not approachable also. So that is the thing, though. It is not that the raw material supplier or any OC doesn't try to reconcile, doesn't try to. So these are the area which I think that it is, and the limitation particularly. Once 3 years happens, he has nothing to get. Even negotiation, he will not get anything, because corporate debtor knows that law limitation applies and he will not get it. That is
perfect, sir. So thank you, Mr. Mishra, to have raised these points. I'll quickly try and give you 4 aspects which need to be kept in mind. First of all, the way we say you file a case, there is nobody who can give you guarantee that you will win the case, you will get your money and all. Nobody gives you a guarantee. It's just a process which is to be followed as per a statute. So similarly, there is no guarantee of mediation also, which is also one of the ways to try and resolve. Right? Because IBC from day one has been about resolution, but frankly, the way I see it, a lot of it is about recovery. And we should not feel shy in accepting what it is. The banks, when they look at a resolution plan, or any financial creditor, any creditor for that matter, and why not? I mean, an OC, an employee, a workman, are people looking at कि तुम ठीक हो गए तो मेरे को दे देना पैसा, or people are saying मेरे को कितना दे रहे हो, कब दे रहे हो? So that is the difference between resolution and recovery. We may or we may not agree, or we are using different terms, but at the end we're looking at a recovery. The sooner the better. And the time value of money actually also goes along with that. So let's stop being hypocritical, to a greater extent. This is all about recovery, number one. Second thing is, mediation is an alternative which fits into the scheme of things at the first level, because this is a voluntary mechanism where if there is no intent issue, because that is the key. You've given examples about big corporate debtors, big borrowers who have cheated banks, who are not paying to anyone and all. So if there is an intent issue, then of course, forget about mediation. Even, how a legal proceedings is delayed and dragged and then taken to a different level altogether, then we are talking absolutely a different case altogether. फिर तो वो हिंदी में आपने सुना है, साम दाम दंड भेद करो, जो करना है करो, पैसा ले लो टाइप्स, या जैसे भी निकलता है. But if it's not the intent thing, then what we are saying is you should explore mediation day one as the first option. Now, whether you are able to reach him, not able to reach him, now those are specific cases and aspect which need to be handled in a specific case by putting heads together. Your word on limitation. Limitation 3 साल normally हम बात करते हैं. मैं आपको mediation के लिए 3 महीने से ऊपर नहीं बोल रहा हूं. Believe me. अगर कुछ होना है तो वो होगा. You will get a view. In exceptional cases, you might want to, again, with the consensus of both the parties, you might want to extend. Maybe चलो एक meeting और कर लेते हैं, 2 और कर लेते हैं, but we'll come to a conclusion. Otherwise, if nothing is working in 3 months, then you have lost it. Then the next best alternatives need to be picked up. That's another answer. Third part, कि कुछ भी ले लें और कुछ भी कर लें, या उसको नहीं पता आपको पता, ऐसा नहीं होता था. जब आप negotiation या mediation में बैठते हैं, and I can also explain very quickly, briefly, negotiation is between the two parties, either on their own, or someone like me can help a particular party in negotiating when I'm not a mediator. Because जब negotiation के लिए मदद करूंगा, then I'm only helping a party, a particular client. I can't be helping on negotiation both the sides. I can't be saying तुम इतना मांगो, तुम इतना मत दो. It doesn't work. As a mediator, I have no role to put words in the mouth of the parties. Then I have to pay a pure, balanced and fair approach game. But when I'm a negotiator or I'm helping as a negotiator, then I'm helping one side, one party who's my client, कि आप ऐसे मांगो, ये मत बोलो, ऐसा बताओ या ये करो. So that is a simple difference between mediation and negotiation. The parties are very well equipped to do a negotiation on their own without a third party involved. But if they involve, then of course we come as a negotiation consultant. So separate. But important point I'm making here is there are terms called BATNA, VATNA, and ZOPA. Now these are evolved terms. Again, whoever gets trained as a mediator, they need to go through all these terms. BATNA is the best alternative to a negotiated agreement. VATNA is the worst alternative. Something which means आपके पास fallback क्या है? What is your next best alternative? So when you sit in a negotiation or a mediation, you need to be sure कि मैं ये कर इतना मैं कर सकता हूं, इससे ज्यादा नहीं कर सकता. Go no go situation. कि बॉस तू मेरे को 100 रुपए के 60 रुपए देगा तो ठीक है, अगर उससे नीचे देगा then I'm happy to go to the court and fight it out, or I'm happy to follow alternative options which I have. This is important. So you need to do your homework before you sit in mediation or in negotiation with a third party or a second party. You have to first of all understand what are your options. What's your plan B? If not this, then what? Everything needs to be discussed. So it becomes a science, right? आपने evaluate किया, analyze किया, आपने plus minus अपने देखे, and why it is an art? Art because how you position yourself. आपके माइंड में जो है आप उसको कब बोल रहे हो, कैसे बोल रहे हो, कितना बोल रहे हो. एक होता है झूठ बोलना, एक होता है सच ना बताना. See the difference, right? सच बताना only to the extent need to know basis पे, जब बोलना है तब बोलूंगा, जब तक नहीं बोला तब तक वो मेरे अंदर है. Versus telling a lie. So I'm not saying telling a lie, but I'm saying the truth be told, how much, when, and how. So that is the difference. So that is where it becomes an art. Art and a science put together makes it, a practice. So simple point I've given you कि voluntary होनी चाहिए, किसी को पकड़ के नहीं ला सकते. अगर कोई नहीं आ रहा, in spite of you trying to help, so you can be a party or party representative, or you can be a mediator. Depends. So if you're not willing, it's all about mindset, which I said. If you're not willing to kind of, come together or make people come together, or you have tried your best, then probably, we'll have to leave it, because one of the feature continues to be, whether it's a court annexed or something. If it's a mediation, it has to be voluntary, where parties have to agree, yes, we are willing to explore settlement through mediation. If one of them says no, then of course can't help it types. So वो बता दिया, limitation के लिए मैंने बता दिया. All we require is a beginning. और 2-3 महीने में निपटता है तो निपटता है, अदरवाइज आई एम सेइंग कि शायद नहीं हो। बांटना आपको बताया, यू नीड टू काइंड ऑफ understand your next best options. Intent continues to be critical. If you figure out there is an intent issue, then drop the effort, because then it's not worth, then we are getting into a wrong direction. And so it has to be a bona fide thing, otherwise malafide samajh aati hai to phir it doesn't work. So again the crux is आप अपनी तरफ से इंटेंट रखिए कि मैं ट्राई करूंगा जब भी ये जरूरत होगी, और सामने वाले को आप समझाना भी है, बिकॉज रिमेंबर मैंने शुरू में ओपनिंग रिमार्क्स में क्या बोला था, एक है मीडिएशन के अपने इनहेरेंट बेनिफिट्स. सो यू हैव टू एक्सप्लेन पीपल मीडिएशन पर से इज गुड. आई एम नॉट कंपेयरिंग इट विद समथिंग. मीडिएशन इज गुड, इसके ये फायदे रिलेशनशिप्स हैं, कंटिन्यूटी है, वगैरह वगैरह, ऑल दोस थिंग्स, यू नो, गुड मनी चेजिंग बैड मनी नहीं, सर्टेनिटी है, हम ही लोग डिसाइड करेंगे, ऑल दोस थिंग. बट व्हेन यू थिंक कि ये इससे काम नहीं बन रहा, द नेक्स्ट लेवल इज देन यू स्टार्ट कंपेयरिंग एंड टेलिंग कि बॉस अगर ये नहीं करोगे तो आप देखो क्या क्या हो सकता है. आपकी इतनी बड़ी कंपनी है, द डे द कंपनी गेट्स एडमिटेड टू सीआरपी, अ न्यू पर्सन विल कम, ऑफिसर ऑफ द कोर्ट विल कम, यू नो, एज आई सेड, स्केलेटन ऑफ द कपबोर्ड, आपकी गुडविल खराब हो जाएगी, अनसर्टेनिटी हो जाएगी, you may lose the company for good, all those things will happen, customers will run away, you know, you'll have a bag, this thing, आपकी personal guarantees वो invoke हो जाएंगी, all those things. Now that is where you are now telling him the repercussions of not agreeing to a potential settlement option which you are giving to him. So ये दोनों चीजें साथ साथ चलाओ, maybe you get a success, इसके बाद नहीं मिलती तो साहब फिर फेट ए कंपनी है, then move forward. So that is you know, suggestion I have. Now we start with the presentation you know, a bit quickly. और अगर उसमें बीच में जरूरत होती है तो आप लोग you know, you can ask me questions or you can interrupt at any point. Otherwise I think we'll try and complete that within time. So a quick you know, snapshot on mediation, which probably will run through its role in IBC. So what, how and why. And of course, you know, I mean, this is a perspective of a resolution professional, if I say, who happens to be a mediator first. So you'll see that the way I'm approaching this entire thing is with the view that, you know, if it can get resolved, it better be resolved. तो मेरा IP का रोल बाद में आएगा, पहले मेरा रोल आना चाहिए mediator का. Now, what we'll discuss here quickly would be what is mediation, some of its inherent strength features जो आपने काफी मतलब time and again सुन लिए मुझसे. I doubt there'll be anything new, but if there is, then you know, we get the benefit. What exactly is IBC? We did discuss. We don't say it's recovery, but frankly, to an extent it is. But resolution or recovery की जब हम बात करते हैं, तो resolution has to be a solution between the parties, for the parties, and ideally by the parties. And if that be the case, then by default, mediation has a role. What form or format of mediation or its principles would be relevant in IBC is something we'll discuss as we move forward. Then, what is expected of a resolution professional in this scenario, right? And you know, I never liked calling ourselves as insolvency professional. Insolvency was a taboo. Like, and over the period, I understood that, you know, at times you have to say what it is and to, you know, let people understand and directly, you know, relate. इसके लिए हमारा क्लिनिक का नाम भी इंसॉल्वेंसी क्लिनिक हो गया, रेजोल्यूशन क्लिनिक नहीं हुआ. Anyway, so types of disputes and conflicts and issues where applying these principles would be helpful, and some real life examples which I'll, you know, quickly take you through. And so people who have kind of, you know, attended any of my earlier programs or something, they'll see that I normally come out with one last single page which has some statements which to me are very important principles, and I call it theory of balance, where it'll help you in solving and resolving disputes, or rather having a very different take. You know, it's a bit philosophical, but then I would you know, urge you to be you know, attentive at least on this particular sheet. And of course, towards the end, we can speak about a lesson learned recently, where we can all try and see whose fault was it, but then it kind of hit everyone. So mediation, the concept, you know, we've discussed, it's often termed as an ADR, alternative dispute resolution. It's a tool, but often gets no attention due to lack of awareness of the concept, because ADR for the world continues to be largely meaning as arbitration. it's sad, but maybe, you know, mediation bill and, you know, the Singapore Convention 2019, you know, these things will make a difference, because few differences are very clear. You know, one is collaborative, one is adversarial, one is where one is a neutral in one of the proceedings. The other one is the arbitrator who decides. On one side, we're talking about justice. On the other side, we're talking about a solution, and justice always is not a solution. Winner takes all versus a give and take. And then, of course, my most important part is the relationships, where we say us versus I and me, as in who's right and what is right. Now, what then is mediation? So it's an art and science, as I keep saying, of resolving, settling the disputes between the parties through a mechanism where parties themselves are enabled to settle their, I would say enabled, say be better word, empowered to settle their own disputes. This is facilitated by a neutral called a mediator, and a lot revolves around changing of the mindset. Neutral here is an enabler, a catalyst, and a facilitator. Why mediation? Its benefits. So many disputes can be settled and resolved just by ensuring a better communication, and you would actually agree to this. Other time, to, you know, I mean, most of us, we've attended, you know, कोई अच्छा कोच है, लाइफ कोच है, या किसी और का सेशन दो, तो वो बोलते हैं कि जी आप तो बोलने को सब तैयार रहते हो, सुनने को तैयार नहीं. So, you know, being a patient listener itself requires a lot of effort, frankly. And apart from, you know, better communication, if we are able to better connect and involve the parties, that is where, like, you know, mediation or mediator would help. So these disputes are many times a disagreement. So essentially, hum dispute to bol dete hain, but dispute has a lot of gravity. Dispute is more grave. It all starts with a disagreement and then conflicts on even as mundane issues as interpretation. मुझे यूं लगता है, आपको यूं लगता है, और लड़ाई हो गई है. But if we see it from a fresh perspective and without the baggage of ego कि I'll always be right, मेरे पास 15 डिग्री हैं, जो मैं बोलता हूँ ठीक होता है. So if we kind of, you know, can come out of it, then I'm sure, like, you know, the solutions would be visible somewhere. Of course, again, I'm linking it to the mindset issue. So here, if somebody has to prove himself as dominant and all, then, like, you know, you'll have an issue, and this is where the intent also plays a role. So after all, relationships cannot be held to ransom by such disputes, and this needs to be understood. अब आप देखें inherent benefits. We've spoken a lot on this thing, and quickly if I were to list down, voluntary है, दोनों parties को agree करना चाहिए, नहीं तो फिर वो डंडा ही अगर चाहिए तो फिर आपको arbitration का notice भेज दिया गया और आपने कोर्ट चले गए. So वो डंडा है, मतलब, you know, you have the force of law. Here it's important that something has to be left which is not codified, which is not to be told कि भाई आप यही करोगे, ऐसे करोगे, तो वो लीगल बन गया. लीगल बन गया, लॉ हो गया, तो फिर कोर्ट को चाहिए होगा, एनफोर्स करेगा. तो आप ये देखिए, फिर एक और बन गया. आर्बिट्रेशन करते करते कहाँ चला गया, तो कल को मेडिएशन भी ऐसे चला जाएगा. समवेयर in my heart, I don't want a codification of mediation in proper sense. It should be just a broad, you know, a framework कि बॉस इसमें आप सेटल कर लो. मतलब ऐसा ना हो कि आप अलग से किसी से बात कर रहे हो, कोई सेटिंग कर रहे हो, मेडिएटर अलग से किसी से मिल रहा है, वो सब चीजें ना करें. अदरवाइज इट कैन नॉट बी कोडिफाइड कि आप ये करेंगे, फिर आप लिखित में ये देंगे. ऑल दीज थिंग्स आर नॉट रेलिवेंट. आई स्टिल मेंटेन, आई हैव गिवन माय व्यूज टू द standing committee in the parliament also, that, you know, we need to kind of, you know, ensure that we don't go on micromanaging all this thing. But let's see, you know, there are big guys who have also given their views. Let's see. Confidential इसलिए हाईलाइट नहीं किया हुआ बिकॉज समवेयर कॉन्फिडेंशियलिटी को थोड़ा हमें डाइल्यूट करना पड़ेगा, बिकॉज आवर इंटेंट इज समथिंग डिफरेंट विद रिगार्ड्स टू आईबीसी. बट टिपिकल मीडिएशन इज प्योरली कॉन्फिडेंशियल, प्योरली कॉन्फिडेंशियल. देन ऑफ कोर्स इट्स फ्लेक्सिबल अप्रोच. इसमें ये नहीं कहते भाई लॉ है, ऐसा करो वैसा करो, यू नो, वो लेफ्ट पे बैठता है, वो राइट पे बैठता है, आप अपना वकील के साथ आइए, आप ऐसे ही. Pure flexibility. That's the best part, because all we require is a decision maker who is a party in the dispute to come and agree and disagree कि भैया मेरे को समझ नहीं आ रहा, या ये समझ आ रहा है, मैं ये कर सकता हूँ. तो flexibility पूरी देनी है. We have to make them comfortable. That is where they'll start opening up. Out of the box thinking and hence creative solutions are possible, because totally आप कहते हो कि no holds barred. लॉ में हमें ये नहीं कर सकता, मैं ऐसा नहीं कर सकता. मैं कहता हूँ भाई साहब मुझे solution देखना है. I have to explore a solution between the parties. And a solution is always a solution from the perspective of the people who are actually having a dispute. Who am I to tell them कि अरे आप ये कर लो, ये आपके लिए भी ठीक है, आपके लिए भी ठीक है. हो सकता है दोनों मन में मुझे गालियां दे रहे हो कि भाई तुम्हें क्या पता ये सब कुछ. हमें पता है, we are the strugglers, we have the issues. So the solution ideally has to be from the perspective of the parties in dispute. So the more the mediator understands, he can help them drive to a situation whereby they find a solution on their own. Nudging, a bit of hand holding is fine, but I can't sit on their head and say, मुझे यूं लगता है, मुझे कुछ नहीं लगना चाहिए. I cannot. So here, but the slight difference here is, as an IP, I understand the CIRP. I understand the law. I understand the contract. I understand the borrowing and the debt and the default. So I am saying, नहीं जी, आप इसको समझिए, CIRP में ये तकलीफ होती है, पैसे आपने देने थे, उनके पास ये तकलीफ. So I can help. I can be a bit more vocal than a typical mediator. So these are some differences over the period where we'll have to understand the concept, but then apply it accordingly to the context. कॉस्ट इफेक्टिव 100% यस. आपको मैंने एग्जांपल दिया, 100 रुपए की आपकी बिलिंग है, आपने इंटरेस्ट, पेनल्टी, हरासमेंट, ये वो कॉस्ट सब लगा के 150 रुपया कर दिया, आपका क्लेम चला गया. मिलेगा क्या, कब मिलेगा नहीं मालूम, लेकिन देयर आर चांसेस कि आज वो 100 को 70 में दोनों लोग एग्री करने को तैयार हैं. So the 70 has become 150, but the chances of recovery or the resolution have become maybe 1% versus the 70 rupees, which is half of the higher amount, but still a much higher percentage of the initial amount, but the chances are much higher. And of course, what I say is, if mediation has to be possible, then it doesn't take time. It can't take years. It doesn't take years. वो आप कर रहे हो या नहीं कर रहे, because then you have from within a feel कि मैं सामने बैठ गया उसके mediator के सामने, एक मीटिंग, दो मीटिंग, तीन मीटिंग, will say कि अरे time waste हो रहा है. The other guy will say कि okay, even I quit. Absolutely good. So mediation by itself, by design, either it will work or it won't work. It won't drag. Either you will get restless or the other party will get restless. So either something is happening, then we take it forward. तो इसीलिए हम normally 90 days की बात बोल रहे हैं. No return rule. I have been part of mediations जो चली 3 घंटा और खत्म कैसे हुई, उसने कहा सॉरी, सामने वाला का बस यही सुनना था, and I am happy. Mediation over. एक ही बार में. And then there have been 5 sittings and eventually no solutions. And then finally we said, okay, sorry, can't help it. We did try, but for sure, cost effective. How one gets paid and all, it's a very personal kind of personalized practice. So one will have to find its own level. Now, time effective, I've given you enough examples of time, effective, because no prescribed 90 days and 180 days and 1 year and 2 year, no going to the court. आप बोलते हो कि भाई 3 मीटिंग में डिसाइड करेंगे. मुझसे कोई पूछता है, नॉर्मली डिपेंडिंग ऑन द कॉम्प्लेक्सिटी ऑफ द केस में बोलता हूँ 5 मीटिंग, बिकॉज उसमें एक फंडा रहता है, एक कॉन्सेप्ट होता है ऑफ अ कॉकस. नाउ व्हाट हैपेंस इज, आइडियली अ मीडिएटर सिट्स in between, and there are parties on either side which are in dispute, but then we have joint meetings where all the three get together, and we also have caucus which are private one-to-one meetings. Because normally, because of ego, because of issues, because of relationships, because of whatever dominance, there are some parties or some people who are not willing to speak up or be open about their thought process in a group. So they prefer to meet the mediators separately, only to share the views. Mediator will definitely have to keep everything confidential, but it helps him to say कि अच्छा अगर आप ये सोच रहे हो तो उसने जॉइंट मीटिंग में एक आता तो maybe you can look at this, but खत्म. But when I sit in a caucus with the other party, I cannot till the time I am authorized by the first party to divulge. तो वो एक रहती है. तो टाइम इफेक्टिव डेफिनेटली होता है. इसमें हमें कभी भी डिसाइड कर सकते हैं कि भैया हम 3 मीटिंग करेंगे, 5 करेंगे, या 2 के बाद आपने छोड़ दिया. तो टाइम का मतलब है फ्लेक्सिबिलिटी है. तो डेफिनेटली नोबडी वुड वांट टू ड्रैग इट. इसीलिए जिस तरह से मिस्टर मिश्रा ने पूछा अभी कि भाई अगर 3 महीना, 6 महीना, वो 8 महीने लटकाएगा, लटकाने का कॉन्सेप्ट नहीं है साहब, बिकॉज वॉलंटरी है. तो इफ यू डोंट एग्री टू समथिंग, then it doesn't matter whether he agrees or not. And if he doesn't agree to something which you agree or not, it doesn't matter. Both the parties will have to agree to practically everything when a solution can be explored. अगर नहीं होता तो नहीं होता, फिर तो आप कोर्ट कचहरी, CIRPs and everything करिए, then absolutely, because you've tried it. So the best part is you've tried it, it's not working, then go ahead with the other thing. Now, the good part here is no one has to lose to make the other win. Now, that's very important. As I keep saying, winner take all approach and all that. यहाँ पे जरूरी नहीं कि जब तक आप हारोगे नहीं मैं जीतूंगा नहीं. As I keep saying, we enlarge the scope of the pie itself, the size of the pie. आप ये कर लो, मैं ये कर लेता हूँ, आप भी खुश, मैं भी खुश, अच्छा आपको मैं अभी ये दे देता हूँ, बाद में आपको डबल दे दूंगा, आज नहीं दे पाऊंगा. So many things. So a give and take approach, it helps the parties bridge the divide. Relationships are saved. I keep saying it, and it means a lot. So people who understand, a business or anything, works on relationships at the day end, why not? Then, and this is a sure shot mechanism where you can save the relationship. And I keep saying a field mediation does not affect your rights or interest in any way. एक session, दो session, महीना, दो महीना, big deal, boss. कुछ फर्क नहीं पड़ेगा. You can go and adopt the next best option you have. But having tried, it gives you strength. आने वाले time में we are even going to see that you go to the judge and say, look, I tried mediation. This guy did not. He never came. We invited him twice. We hired a mediator, and this guy chose not to come. You will definitely have an upper hand. It's not about only that, but I'm saying generally it's a good thing. So it can help you. So objective of IBC हम सबको पता है. Quickly I'll run through. Resolution or recovery. Recovery नहीं होना चाहिए. So IBC is all about a debt under default, and hence its resolution with maximization of value in the minimum time is the essence preamble. What are the questions being asked till today? Right? 6 years. And what do we say? Prove the debt. अभी प्रूफ चल रहा है कि वो लिमिटेशन है, उसको तकलीफ हो रही है, या भाई लिमिटेशन के अंदर भी मुझे नहीं समझ आई थी. आई मीन अगेन इट्स माय इंडिपेंडेंट व्यू. अगर आपका पैसा पुराना या नया और सामने भी पड़ा है तो 3 साल अगर हो गए तो यार वो होता है ना कि राइट आपका नहीं गया बट वो लीगल राइट चला गया, बट आपका वो है. मतलब आई स्टिल आई एम नॉट वांटिंग टू क्वेश्चन द लॉ ऑफ लैंड इन अ वे, बट आई ऑलवेज थॉट आईबीसी लेकर आए हो, रिजॉल्व कर रहे हो, देने वाले हैं, जस्ट बिकॉज 3 साल पुराना है और सामने वाला कहते हैं कि भाई लिमिटेशन एक्ट है इसलिए बार हो गया. व्हाई? आईबीसी आया है ना अभी. एक होती थी लैक्सिटी कि आप सो गए जाके, लेकिन उसका किताब में लिखा है, आप भी उसको कह रहे हो जस्ट यू आर गिविंग एक्स्ट्रा टूल की लिमिटेशन एक्ट है. सो आई ऑलवेज हैड रिजर्वेशंस, बट एनीवे फिर प्रूफ लाओ, फिर आधे टाइम पे हम नेचुरल जस्टिस की बात कर रहे हैं, फिर जी आप डिफाइन कर दो, वो विदर्भा वगैरह में आपने डिस्क्रिप्शन दे दी. टाइप ऑफ डेट में लड़ाई होती रहती है, एफसीओसी, और कई बार होता है अदर क्रेडिटर्स. अब एज अ चार्टर्ड अकाउंटेंट आई एम स्ट्रगलिंग टू फाइंड व्हाट इज अदर क्रेडिटर्स. आप किसी भी टाइप को या फाइनेंशियली बात कर सकते हो या ऑपरेशनली. अदर के लिए तो चैलेंज हो गया. अननेसेसरली वी ट्राई टू जस्टिफाई. disputes around the debts continue to hog. Now then we have a problem of proving the default. पहले तो डेट को प्रूव करो, फिर डिफॉल्ट को करो. ड्यू हुआ नहीं हुआ, क्रिस्टलाइज हुआ नहीं हुआ, गारंटी का क्या करें, सब्रुगेशन का क्या करें, थर्ड पार्टी राइट इंटरेस्ट है वो आज तक चल रही है. Confusion on resolution चल रही है versus recovery through plans. But we talk about time value for money, we talk about upfront payment, we talk about upsides, we talk about haircuts. तो recovery की बात तो कर ही रहे हैं. फिर हम issues at COC की बात तो करें तो heterogeneous body है. People have different interest. बैंकर बैठा है वर्सेस एफडी होल्डर बैठा है वर्सेस होम बायर बैठा है वर्सेस एचएनआई बैठा है वर्सेस डेट म्यूचुअल बैठा है वर्सेस गारंटी होल्डर बैठा है. तो सबके अपने अपने एआरसी बैठा है, सबकी अपनी अपनी कहानी है. So to get a consensus, how difficult or easy it is. So half the time, that is the reason you don't have plans which are getting passed by 100%. कई बार तो 34% वाला 1% कहीं और ले आए तो वो हावी हो जाता है because you are not allowing the other side to actually approve. उसका भी रीजन नेक्स्ट उसमें आता है कि डिसेंटिंग क्रेडिटर्स की कहानी आज तक चलती है. प्रायोरिटी क्या देंगे, बट 31(1) में द प्लान हैज टू बी बाइंडिंग ऑन ऑल द स्टेक होल्डर्स. बट एक तरफ हमने प्रायोरिटी देनी है, एक आदमी ने ना कर दिया, उसको पैसा पहले दे दो, दूसरे आदमी को 10 साल में दो क्योंकि रेजोल्यूशन प्लान में लिखा हुआ है. तो मेजोरिटी का रूल कॉन्सेप्ट कैसे होता है, डिबेट इज ऑन. ऑपरेशनल क्रेडिट ऊपर से वो 34% की डिसेंटिंग को आपको हमेशा मान के चलना पड़ेगा प्लान में एज अ रेजोल्यूशन एप्लीकेंट की. 34 ना भी कर दें तो भी प्लान अप्रूव हो जाएगा, लेकिन मेरे को इनको पैसे देने पड़ेंगे, यानी 1/3 प्लस पैसा मुझे अपफ्रंट देना पड़ेगा. सो few things have to be understood. So this is not about finding faults in IPC, but this is telling someone कि बॉस समझ, आगे कुछ पता ही नहीं है क्या हो रहा है क्या होगा, ऊंट किस करवट बैठेगा, as they say. So the law keeps changing. So why not, if you have an option to look at a settlement, don't even go this path. Operational creditors, no voice in COC. We all understand binding plans हैं, almost last in waterfall, and we are asked to restore the essential services or the goods for the going concern. चाहे पुराने पैसे नहीं मिलेंगे नए को वो नहीं कर सकते, hence the objections are there from the start till the finish from the OC. Then the spiral domino effect, which is because of supply chain and all that, and then it leads to more bankruptcy. फिर authorities की बात करें तो lack of awareness, bound by system, red tapeism, lack of initiative, so we keep interacting. वो बोलते हैं हमें पता ही नहीं चला, पता चलेगा तो we'll keep fighting till the Supreme Court. So now everything gets dragged. तो resolution plan भी आपका नहीं होगा, liquidation भी proper नहीं होगी because of these reasons. इसमें गलत कोई नहीं है, सब अपनी अपनी जगह से ठीक है. That's the beauty. You be in the shoes of authorities, you be in the shoes of the bank, you be in the shoes of a home buyer. Everyone looks to कि मैं मेरे लिए तो यही बेस्ट है, लेकिन बेस्ट तो है, लेकिन सबकी डायरेक्शंस अलग हैं. तो एक गाड़ी को चलाना है और आपके नेविगेटर्स आपको हर अलग अलग डायरेक्शन में ले जा रहे हैं, तो गाड़ी कहाँ जाएगी? या तो वहीं खड़ी रहेगी या वहीं घूमती रहेगी. Fitment issues of provisions with some sectors, of course, real estate and all we spoke, there are disputes inside and there are disputes outside. So why mediation in IBCs? Now that's where we try and link it. So resolution in ADR, R in ADR is also the R in IRP resolution process, but of course with a difference. And we have few situations which are codified in IBC, but about the unaddressed ones, we still need to think out of the box. It needs to suit the context. And here a role of a mediator where RP can step in is actually important. Because देखिए, another thing is law is static. As I also said कि आपका एक डॉक्यूमेंट बन गया 2016 में, उसमें छोटे मोटे अमेंडमेंट्स करती है, कभी बड़े करती है, कभी यू टर्न ले लिया, बट द लॉ एज इज स्ट्रिक्ट इंटरप्रिटेशन जब आप करते हैं, इट कैन नॉट गेट अप्लाइड ऑन द ग्राउंड इन एवरी सिचुएशन, बिकॉज सिचुएशंस ऑन द ग्राउंड आर डायनेमिक. आप ये नहीं पढ़ सकते प्रोविजन में ये लिखा है मैं यही अप्लाई करूंगा, ऐसा नहीं होता. Once you're on the ground, you have to take care of 20 things happening all around, parallel forces, and then you try and do a harmonious interpretation, which gives a situation where you have to now apply your out of the box thinking. कि मैं law को भी adhere करूं, timelines को भी adhere करूं, I should try and satisfy people also. So how I can harmonize everything? That is where the creativity comes in, and that's where the RP needs to think beyond just being an RP. So we say IBC is still a new law and will continue to evolve for some more time before the dust settles and the required clarity is given to the stakeholders. But in the interim, we surely have the teething troubles which we are all seeing, and hence it makes sense that let's empower IBC by enabling mechanisms taking the shape of mediation and whichever way it can work. Best example came in early 2017. Supreme Court ने बोला कि सेटलमेंट हो सकती है. आप देखिए 1 साल के अंदर 16 का लॉ है और अर्ली 17 में आपने बता भी दिया कि लोखंड वाला कटारिया कंस्ट्रक्शन में और एक मदर्स प्राइड में जैसे कि हाँ पोस्ट इनिशिएशन ऑफ CIRP वी कैन अलाउ, दो these were proceedings in rem that point in time. That means how easy or difficult it is for people to go to the Supreme Court to get it quashed as a CIRP process. यहाँ पे आप फिटमेंट देखेंगे कि जल्दी अगर कर लेते, because उस टाइम पे people were not serious, people were not sure whether this will fly, this will actually take the shape it has taken, and promoters all this while, a lot of people had this ability or the confidence, overconfidence कि we can game the system. पहले भी करते हैं, delay drag करते रहेंगे, अपना काम चलता रहेगा. आज भी आपको कुछ कुछ केसेस ऐसे मिल जाएंगे, but that is not what the intent is. इंटेंट इज कि अगर हम बोलें कि आप सेटल कर लो या आप इन चीजों के चक्रों में मत पड़ो, अगर हो गया डिफॉल्ट तो कम आउट क्लीन, हैव अ डिस्कशन एंड सेव अ रिलेशनशिप एंड मूव ऑन. सो दैट प्रॉब्ली इज अ बेटर आइडिया रादर देन फाइटिंग इट आउट टू सुप्रीम कोर्ट, व्हिच मे और मे नॉट हैपन. सो दिस वाज फॉलोड बाय ऑर्डर इन एनक्लैट, परविंदर सिंह इंटेक, एक ही हुआ, बट दैट्स वेयर आई से दिस वाज नॉट इनफ इन सेटिंग द प्रेसिडेंस. And then of course came the tweak of 12A कि भैया withdraw ही कर सकते हो आप. So what is the need for mediation in IBC? Can we really do away with all the hurdles or irritants in IBC through mediation? Answer is no. But there are areas and situations where this in a different way or avatar can make a difference, and let's start slow, small, keep moving. So first of all, apart from donning so many other hats, let's also wear the hat of a mediator, जो आज तक बात नहीं होती थी. आप बोलते मैं RP हूँ, लिक्विडेटर हूँ, ऑथराइज्ड रिप्रेजेंटेटिव हूँ, प्रोसेस एडवाइजर हूँ, all those things you say, but why not कि मैं mediator की तरह भी सोचता हूँ या सोच सकता हूँ, and I can help the process become smoother. Now with all the constraints we understand and we have 5 to 6 years of experience behind us, till the time, for as long as the law has been there. Now we understand the money saved is money earned, and IBC is more commercial than legal. The time value of money needs to be respected, and a timely resolution means money earned. Example I keep giving is SR Steel, 42,000 crores was actually given to the lenders. उसको 2 साल लगे लड़ाइयों में. अब मुझे नहीं पता वहाँ mediation कहाँ fit होती नहीं होती. I was not part of the process, but when I speak to Satish Gupta, right, he was the the RP in there along with Alvarez Marshall. They did this, and so he's very fond of now the mediation thing, and we have spoken few times. He says it's a great thing, and we could have used it much earlier in many other scenarios. तो 42,000 crores अगर 2 साल की रेजोल्यूशन से पहले 1 साल में हो जाता, 10% का अगर मैं रेट ऑफ इंटरेस्ट लूं तो 4200 crores का इम्पैक्ट पड़ता है. That's the cost of money, cost of resolution plan delayed by 1 year. Don't you think that's huge? That is what we need to understand. तो ये सब चीजें possible हैं. It's just a matter of the theory needs to get linked with the reality, and then you get to see the numbers and the impact it can make. Now, the parties in IBC are normally at loggerheads. Most of you have seen it, why it happens, and the struggle is from the following issues. So they are not on talking terms with the other side. Communication channels already broken. I've gave you an example of legal department talking to legal department. दूसरी बात होती है mindset के issue. बैंक ने क्रेडिट की टीम ने तो लोन बांटे, सैम ब्रांचेस लोन रिकवरी के लिए लगी हुई हैं, अलग अलग वो हैं, कोई रिलेशनशिप्स पुरानी नहीं है, कोई सॉफ्ट कॉर्नर नहीं है. उनके पास एक फाइल थी, वो फाइल उठ के दूसरे डिपार्टमेंट में आ गई. इनका लेंस अलग है, इनका पर्सपेक्टिव अलग है. सो सी दिस कैन बी the issues of the traits of the system, but we do struggle because of them. Then mixing the real issue of dispute and the personal reasons. At the time आप देखेंगे ego के issues हैं. COC meetings are the best example. I have been privy to it कि हम इसको तो करने नहीं देंगे. People have raised fingers and they fought with each other in the COC meeting. Why make it personal, boss? It's a law. There's a company and there's a promoter and there's but then there's a whole setup. The company is a separate legal entity. If somebody had done wrong, so you have cases where people have been thrown out. But COC meetings में भी हमने देखा personal हो गए, तो ego और ये, तो the real issue of dispute probably went out of the window. Then emotions, they dominate the rationale. Real estate cases में आप देखेंगे home buyers के example ले लीजिए, generally भी कि नहीं जी emotionally ऐसा ही होना चाहिए. Now we've been advising some home buyers and class of creditors. So I said कि आप recovery के चक्कर में मत लीजिए, आपको पैसा कोई वापस नहीं करेगा. It doesn't add up. पैसा कैसे वापस दे दूं? आपके लिए फ्लैट आधा बना है, पौना बना है, पूरा बना है, खाली हैंडओवर नहीं हुआ. तो get the flat, but try and be in sync with the the rest of the creditors so that COC can move forward. But वो rational वो हट जाता है. 10 साल हो गए, हम तो EMI दे रहे हैं, रेंट पे रह रहे हैं. I understand the pain. I wish I could do much. But today you can't let the emotions take over the rationale. So it's difficult, but then that's again where the mediation helps. Mediation means this is nothing but a community mediation. आपको ये बता रहा था family, employment, community, commercial सब होती है. This is nothing but wherever there's a group, this becomes a community mediation. We've sat with RWAs, we've understood. पहले होता है कि एक बार सुनो, सब अपना भड़ास निकालो, शोर मचाओ, उसके बाद धीरे धीरे बताओ साहब क्या चाहते हो, ये नहीं हो सकता, ये हो सकता है, ऐसा करने से ये होगा, ये करने से वो होगा. It takes patience. So if we can have those traits, then definitely we can help those people. We spoke about inability to comprehend the options, जिस तरह आटना, alternative to a negotiated agreement or a best alternative. ZOPA is a zone of possible agreement. कि इस एरिया में इन लोगों का सेटलमेंट हो सकता है. आप 100 मांग रहे हो, वो आपसे वो कह रहा है 50 दूंगा, बट मुझे पता है 75 के आसपास बोथ विल समवेयर मैनेज. तो ये सब चीजों में मदद करनी होती है. अगर खाली CIRP इज द ओनली ऑप्शन, खाली लिक्विडेशन इज द ओनली ऑप्शन, या कुछ और भी कर सकते हैं. एंड देन द कॉन्फ्लिक्ट्स ऑफ इंटरेस्ट ड्यू टू डिफरेंट स्टैंड्स, डिमांड, सिचुएशंस ऑफ मिक्स्ड ग्रुप्स नीड्स टू बी एड्रेस्ड. सो लैक ऑफ अवेयरनेस that there can be discussion to solve and resolve the issues through the neutral. Awareness ही नहीं है. ये लगता हो ही नहीं सकता. अब हो ही नहीं सकता अगर मन में बिठा लिया तो नहीं हो सकता. But अगर नहीं भी हो सकता, but you tried it out, I think that is important, because somewhere you'll figure out, ये भी अगर मैं ऐसे करता तो it would have flied. It would have acted. It would have got made an impact. Next time probably you'll be better at it. But if you don't do it, you're not convinced, then it's the end of the story. There have been situations of lack of confidence to take decision, accept the outcomes, because I mean, as we heard, अब वो बोले कि लीगल अगर हो जाए तो सब सही है, बट कंडीशनिंग हो चुकी है कि लीगल अगर हो गया तो सब सही है, फिर डंडा होगा, मैं बोलूंगा लॉ में लिखा है। बिना लॉ में लिखे हुए ये कौन से लॉ में लिखा है, लड़ना जरूरी है। तो अगर लड़ना जरूरी नहीं है और कहीं नहीं लिखा, तो फिर आप अवॉइड भी कर सकते हो लड़ाई। जब लड़ना पड़ेगा तो लॉ के हिसाब से लड़ लेंगे, लेकिन जब लड़ना अवॉइड करना है, उसके लिए मेरे को लॉ क्यों चाहिए? That is something like, wanted to raise. How the process would work here, of course, it will work differently, but how the person who facilitates and runs this process is someone we call a mediator, as we understand, we discussed. But here RP needs to be stepping into the shoes of a mediator till we have mediators with third parties. अगर जरूरत पड़ेगी तो थर्ड पार्टी की तरह आए, अदरवाइज छोटा सा एक, we need to don a different hat. Normally parties approach mediator, here RP might need to take the initiative. So that's another difference here. You can't sit tight and say कि अपने आप आएंगे तो आएंगे. No, you might have to take a proactive approach. What are the traits and skills which will be put to test, real test? आपकी patience, empathy, respect, solution-oriented approach, and positivity. So the initiative may not always succeed, as I keep saying. No guarantee. कोई legal process में भी guarantee नहीं दे रहा, and that's absolutely okay, because a failed mediation is a better option than no mediation, as the benefits far outweigh the efforts. So situations and steps where mediation is or can be successful. Now, wherever disputes can be put to rest by suitable intervention, they need to be simple. Try it out, boss. Try it out. This is absolutely no cost or minimal cost. As officer of the court and as a professional, now we all know our limits. Can we play within that? So हमें boundary पता है. उसके बाद approach करेंगे NCLT को. 19(2) में करना है, नहीं करना. हालांकि again the initial topic is precursor to CIRP, but here we are talking about at all stages. NCLT में भागने से पहले, is there something I can try and do? I should give it a shot, give it a try. I'll give you quick examples immediately after this. We as professionals know that between employees inter se and with the management, 19(2) may not be the solution always. हम बढ़ावा नहीं देना चाहते litigation को. तो 19(2) करने से पहले आप देखिए if there's something which we can sit, talk, explain. Half the people don't even know IBC. उनके एडवाइजर ने कहा हुआ है आप ऑफिसर ऑफ द कोर्ट आके कंपनी बंद करवाने आ गए हो, आप उनसे काम करवाओगे, पैसे नहीं दोगे. ऐसा नहीं है. During the process of CIRP, if they work and you make them work, then you pay them, and if you don't pay them, that's the CIRP cost. Simple. They are assured. जितना पैसे इकट्ठा होगा बांटिए उनमें. 100 रुपए की सैलरी है, 50 रुपए दे रहे हैं, बाकी 50 will be a CIRP cost. It will be paid to them. Explain them. But 19(2) कर दिया एक बार तो, चाहे बोर्ड के अगेंस्ट कर दिया, किसी के अगेंस्ट कर दिया, वो कह रहे हैं ठीक है आपने लड़ना ही है तो लड़ते हैं. And how you really resolve? By fighting? I don't know. I'm yet to find that. कि कंपनी सब चलेगी, ठीक ठाक चलेगा क्योंकि हम एक दूसरे कोर्ट में लड़ रहे हैं. It seldom happens. Between लेकिन जब करना है तो करना है. When there's no other alternative left, then you have to. Now between COC members during the meetings, now NCLT may not be the solution always. Between the COC, you still need to kind of figure out. अलग से मिलना है, उनको समझाना है, बताना है. Again, आज एक बैंक से एक आदमी आया, अगली बार दूसरा आया, उसकी ट्रांसफर हो गई है, वो छोड़ के चला गया. Anything can happen. There's no continuity, but you need to have patience because that's where you are a professional and you need to control the process. Between OC and management, going concern should be the objective always. Between the authorities and the management, frictions, misconceptions be avoided and higher awareness be tried, because till date, income tax, ED, CBI, सब चिट्ठी लिखते हैं, बोलते हैं आप उसमें RPO, आप ये हमें दे दो, पिछले 10 साल की इंफॉर्मेशन दे दो, फिर ये दे दो, फिर वो. मैंने कहा भाई साहब मैं तो पिछले साल आया हूँ, 6 महीने में आया, हमें नहीं पता. So I have to take the management along and say कि boss, you please continue to deal with authorities. Of course, it's not about authorities as in authority which is suspended. आपकी ड्यूटी है ये कि कोई डिपार्टमेंट किसी को इंफॉर्मेशन देनी, आप दीजिए. We all need to kind of behave and work under the the supervision of the NCLT and the COC. Similarly, these commercial contracts with vendors and customers, they'll have to be reinterpreted in the context, giving each side the comfort as is required or expected. गोइंग कंसर्न का कॉन्सेप्ट समझाया जाए कि भाई सब ठीक चल रहा है, जरूरी नहीं मरना ही है या बैंक्रप्सी होगी. इंटरिम फाइनेंस की बात हुई थी, हम कह रहे थे कि आप गुड्स दो, उसको काइंड का इंटरिम फाइनेंस समझेंगे, एंड इट स्टार्टेड हेल्पिंग द कॉज. So some creativity had to be there. Community or group mediation, I gave the example of real estate, is the best example to avoid fight inter se with the IP, with the builders, with the others. They keep fighting. क्योंकि वो conflict of interest, clash है, बड़े लोग हैं, वो उसका आदमी, ये इसका आदमी, need some patience. तो वहां पे by default mediation के principles लगते हैं. समझो और समझाओ और फिर सुलझाओ. Government authorities उनकी अवेयरनेस बढ़ाओ, डेटा इंफॉर्मेशन दो, एक्शन स्टेप्स एट देयर एंड उनको अगर बताओ कि अगर हम इसको अच्छी तरह हैंडल करते हैं तो हम लिटिगेशन बचाएंगे. पीएफ डिपार्टमेंट हो या वो ईडी का आप देखते हैं, एवरीवन वांट्स टू गो कीप फाइटिंग इररिस्पेक्टिव. वो कहता है हमें नहीं पता, हमें तो लड़ना है बिकॉज हमारी तो मतलब सिस्टम ऐसा ही है एंड वी कैन नॉट टेक अ कॉल unless until you go and explain. Next slide, I'm coming on some real life example and you will understand that we tried and we were successful. So practically all types of disputes should be tried, tackled, as every dispute has an individual behind it, and that's what I keep saying. भाई कंपनी अपने में तो लड़ नहीं रही है, कोई आदमी है जिसने डिसाइड किया कि मैं लड़ूंगा. It will be great if you are able to reach the decision maker or the beneficiary. Prepack, as we heard, which was expected to be the panacea for MSME sector and has not really taken off, is the best suitor for mediation. Absolutely, yes. Atul ji bole the, let this mechanism be explored and we see the difference. So, and ask a wish. So that's again like, what I think it should be, and we keep talking. Maybe something happens out of this for an attempt to have a mediation at various stages of CIRP and beyond. Pre-CIRP, which ideally is a small topic of today, and I stretch it to the other aspects, between the parties in disputes on default, be it with CDFC, CDOC or whatever, assisted by lawyers and RPs, yeah, neutrals. Let there be an undertaking from either side that an attempt has been made to mediate, and where the mediator is RP who can guide the parties either side on the pros and cons, looking at the debt and the default. Right? This of course need to be thought through. और अगर ये कर देते हैं तो उसमें क्या हो जाएगा कि पीपल विल गेट अ टेस्ट ऑफ इट. कुछ फेल हो गए बट धीरे धीरे सीधे रेलेवेंस. इधर भी मैं आपको एक रिपीट करता हूं कि आप बताइए मेडिएशन के ये पॉजिटिव्स हैं और उसके बाद ये भी बताइए कि अगर नहीं करोगे तो क्या तकलीफों में आ सकते हो. सो यू आर टेलिंग द इनहेरेंट बेनिफिट्स एंड यू आर कंपेयरिंग इट विद समथिंग व्हिच कैन फॉलो. नाउ दिस टुगेदर कैन बी द रियल फोर्स एंड you can make them understand and appreciate. So section 12A came specifically for withdrawals, whereas earlier CRP were proceedings in rem. We all know, it's a repetition, but again, that's important, that a well-intended mediation can take care of the issue of immediate withdrawals happening post-admission. आप सब समझ रहे हैं, वही साल 1.5 साल के बाद आपने कंसेंट दिया, फिर उसके बाद फाइलिंग आर्गुमेंट्स होने के बाद अचानक एकदम विड्रॉल जब होता है तो a lot of time and effort has gone wasted. आप सोच रहे थे आपका केस शुरू हो गया, एनसीएलटी पे होना था, 1 साल के उसके बाद आपने 1-1.5 महीने में पोस्ट एडमिशन इसको विड्रॉ किया. सो दिस इज नथिंग बट एंटी रेजोल्यूशन एंड प्रो रिकवरी. उससे अच्छा तो आप पहले ही इसको खत्म करवाओ ना. आपको आपका फीस मिलना चाहिए बिकॉज यू शुड बी इन्वॉल्व द मोमेंट यू गिव अ कंसेंट टू प्ले द रोल ऑफ मीडिएटर इज व्हाट आई वांट. If that works, then जो आपको IRP की फीस मिलनी थी वो आपको एज अ मीडिएटर मिल जाएगी ना, अगर वो रिजॉल्व कर देंगे तो. यू आर हैप्पी ना. काम शुरू हुआ लेकिन जितना हुआ उसका आपको भी मिल गया ना, यू आर ऑल्सो हैप्पी. क्योंकि उसके बाद तो आपको पता है एज IRP ऑल्सो you may or may not continue as per section 22 after 30 days or whatever first COC meeting. Now similarly during CIRP mediation amongst the COC members, चाहे वो क्लेम डिटर्मिनेशन के लिए लड़ाई होती है कि तुमने पेनल्टी ऐड करी, तुमने इंटरेस्ट इतना ऐड किया, मैंने इतना नहीं किया, फिर वैल्यूएशन प्रोसेस को लेकर लड़ाई होती है, देन अप्रोच रेजोल्यूशन के लिए लड़ाई होती है, रेजोल्यूशन एप्लीकेंट से लड़ाइयां होती हैं, कंसेंसस ऑन गोइंग कंसर्न का होता है एंड रिलेटेड इश्यूज. सो देयर अ होल लॉट ऑफ स्टफ वेयर यू कैन सिट एंड से कि रिलैक्स गाइस, कैन वी अंडरस्टैंड व्हाई आर वी फाइटिंग एंड व्हाट फॉर वी आर फाइटिंग एंड व्हाट वाज द लार्जर ऑब्जेक्ट, व्हाट डू वी अचीव आउट ऑफ इट, और अलग अलग डायरेक्शन में जाके कहां पहुंचेंगे, किसका क्या मुद्दा है, what is the agenda they are fighting for. So mediator who's a neutral but not the RP, probably because at that time maybe there's a conflict, can be an observer as part of the COC meetings to assess the process is another of my suggestion. कि जब COC meeting हो, let there be a mediator, a third party. अगर वो मतलब वो सेम RP नहीं हो, वो RP IP mediator हो या अलग से mediator हो, whatever it is, but yes, a additional person who's sitting as an observer. Post CRP and beyond, इसके बाद भी लड़ाइयां हो रही है. Mediator can be a part of the implementation agency or whatever the committee is to smoothen the transition process also. And RP from my perspective to undergo a mediation training, as I said, just to get relevant insights into the thought process of a mediator. Support from the government and regulator, it did come. I wrote, some articles where I said, let's promote the concept of mediation in insolvency about 2 years back. And I got to read the headline somewhere that government to amend IBC to facilitate mediation for individual creditors. I said, great, this was music to ears. One step forward to a journey that could have made a real difference. And next step should or could have been to amend IBC to facilitate mediation for corporate debtors also, which today we are discussing. But the music unfortunately stopped playing somewhere in between, and we didn't hear anything from the government ever since. So the skills and traits which are expected from mediator and now from a RP, art of balancing, art of management, softer skills, communication, good listener, patient, a bit of slight carrot approach, जो मैं आपको बैठना और comparison बताता हूँ, that is nothing but same चीजें हैं. Having respect, empathy, required flexibility, of course, within the framework of law, and the intent to put in efforts to learn, unlearn, lead, guide, manage, because, again, a fact, IBC is a draconian law. Reason being, it can lead to a death of a CD, which is a non-natural person. No other law, Companies Act, Income Tax Act, Contract Act, Sales of Good Act, Property Act, कोई आप बताइए, कहीं होता है कि कंपनी मर जाएगी, dissolve हो जाएगी. Nobody is thought through, but IBC is actually, that's the reason. कि अगर कहीं पे नहीं कुछ फिटमेंट हो रही तो डिसॉल्व करो और आगे बढ़ो. So if it can lead to a death, then we need to be serious, right? And hence it's important for people all through the process to appreciate that this can actually lead to a death. Fortunate, unfortunate, I don't know whether it's a good idea or not, unless until there's the only alternative left कि भी लिक्विडेशन होना ही होना और अब डिसॉल्व होना ही होना, तभी होना चाहिए. नहीं तो यू शुड ट्राई एंड सेव करने का मतलब है मिलो, बैठो, समझो, समझाओ, फिर सुलझाओ. So law and limitation, acknowledgement of debt, as we spoke, subrogation, coexisting liabilities in case of guarantees, all this requires a more open debate, and we still need to understand कि ये जो IBC override करता है, इसमें भी क्यों issues regular आते हैं. So we all need to contribute to the profession, help, evolve best practices with a solution-oriented approach. So few examples which I wanted to share with you in terms of, how we try to use mediation in the principles and how it helped. So in one of our cases, we got the corporate guarantees returned without invocation. No NCLT intervention. We said, कि नहीं जाएंगे, मिलेंगे. समय लगा, 1-2 महीने का time लगा. We had to sit. I mean, initially for them, the state government, the state authorities, they had no reason to believe in us. But I had to go personally. I went with the promoter. I went separately. I said, नहीं, हमें wait करवाया. उन्होंने हाँ आप कौन हो, हमें नहीं जानते. फिर धीरे धीरे करके they understood and we got the guarantees returned. Now that was big. 50 crores of guarantees and the COC में वो सोच रहे हैं कि ऐसा हो भी कैसे सकता है. And this without NCLT intervention. You won't imagine seized goods by DRI and custom 5 साल पहले के, before even the CIRP or the IBC had come in. 5 साल से custody में पड़े हैं. We go, we explain, it takes 4 months, back and forth, emails, suggestions, जाते हैं, समझाते हैं. And without even NCLT application, they release that. Imagine. It has happened. That is the point we were making, कि it's not about कि वो जब तक दो लड़ाई करने वाले बैठे नहीं, मैं नहीं साथ बैठे. It's about applying the relevant principles. Go explain, help. मैं खाली डिपार्टमेंट को मुझे आप दे दो, बस मुझे नहीं पता, मैं तो एनसीएलटी चले जाऊंगा. वो क्या करेगा, बिना समझे वो कहेगा ठीक है, तुमने एक नोटिस भेजा, उसके लॉयर ने भेजा, अब लड़ो. एनसीएलटी ने कोई ऑर्डर दिया, एपलेट पे चैलेंज हुआ, फिर सुप्रीम कोर्ट गए, तब तक वेट करोगे 2 साल 3 साल, नहीं पता. यहाँ पे हम नहीं गए. We said, okay, let's explain. What do you want? They said, okay, explain the logic. Come and meet the people, make a presentation. अगर ऐसा हुआ तो क्या, ये लिख के आप दे सकते हो, कैसे नहीं करोगे, undertaking दे दो. All those things we said we'll do. Let's understand. You understand us, we'll understand you. That is important. So rather than being a mediator, I think I became one party, they became the other party. We said, okay, let's sit and discuss. And we were able to resolve. Similarly, recovery of old debts from an electricity board. Can you imagine? Getting money from electricity board, all the electricity board in the country are broke. हमने एक application जरूर लगाई, कोविड का टाइम था, we had no option to go and meet, but the moment कोविड थोड़ा सा हटा, गए, समझे, डायरेक्टर फाइनेंस के साथ बैठे, समझाया, उन्होंने का ओपिनियन दिलवा दो, वो दिलवाया, सब कुछ करके उनके पास they had some recoveries also to make, but then they were so convinced with the opinion, they gave the entire amount. The recoveries are still with us as claim. So set off possible tha in a way, Normally nahi hota, they could have done that, but simple point, they were convinced. No NCLT, वो NCLT पे हमने withdraw कर दिया बाद में, of course COVID time पे डालना पड़ा. But imagine that electricity board से जो due legit तो दे नहीं रहे पैसे, they gave us the money back. Again, 3 to 4 years old dues. Going concern status, we were able to maintain of a CD. This is the case of course, that in the solvent company, but like, but going through a CIRP, we got an order that, your all the contracts will be annulled because आप insolvency में हो. We had to go to high court, but we told them कि नहीं, हमें लड़ना नहीं, आप समझो. We had to sit with municipal commissioner, made a presentation, उनको बताया, कोई NCLT में application नहीं लगी, revive किया दोबारा business, and it was a profitable business till the time I was there. Employees workmen की unrest हुआ एक CD में, जो liquidate होने वाली थी, उनको समझाया. Eventually sale of going concern में they supported. Some of them actually got rehired by the new person. Informal meetings with COC members always have helped. We seek their views, we clarify their doubts, we help bridge the gap on achieving consensus in decision making. It's not easy कि liquidation करोगे तो क्या, resolution करोगे तो क्या, आपके क्या plus minus हैं, what are your policies, how I can help you, how I can come to your seniors and explain them. All this we have done. We have tried, we have assisted home buyers by making them aware of the appropriate options, as I was saying कि भाई recovery में मत पड़ो, वैसा करो. So 5-6 जगह पे ये सब किया, pros cons बताए, because different people have told them different stories about IBC versus RERA versus ये versus consumer courts and all that. But once you are stuck in CIRP, then what exactly is the option? Moratorium चल रहा है और कुछ होगा नहीं. उधर भी आपकी गलत डिमांड्स हैं, आप IP से लड़ रहे हो, बिल्डर से लड़ रहे हो, कुछ होने भी नहीं दे रहे, COC नहीं हो पा रही. What exactly are you doing? You need some time, you need to sit with them. All this we have done, it helped. As process advisors, we have been able to assist the IPs concerned with some reliefs on all these factors, because wherever we sit, we say कि वो लड़ रहा है, उसको साथ बैठ के समझाते हैं. So the whole idea is to avoid, the contest and the litigations and the NCLTs. जब जरूरत है तो जाना ही है, but that should be the last option left. Very quickly, I'll go through position of mediation some laws. So section 30 के अंदर बात होती है, आप settlement की बात कर सकते हो. Arbitration Act में section 73 में conciliation में होती है, जो अब नहीं होगी mediation bill आने के बाद. Commercial court में मैंने बताया 12A के अंदर, like there's a mandatory reference to mediation to be attempted to resolve differences. And RERA में 32A में बात होती है, MSME में section 18 में बात होती है. इनक्लेट का हमने बताया कि एक mediation का केस ट्राई किया था परविंदर सिंह वाला. And of course, हमारा mediation bill is an attempt to add legitimacy to the concept. This is that order which, no point going in detail. The only point is what I've written in red, that had this mediation been done earlier, the precious time of judiciary and related costs could have been avoided. Relationships would not have become sour. Eventually हुआ, but the worst part or the sad part is कि ये आगे नहीं बढ़ा. एक one-off case हुआ और उसके बाद फिर नहीं हुआ. क्योंकि हम ये बोलते हैं, what if IPs themselves assist in mediation and they charge fees for the same, because at the end they're helping the cause. That's more important. What the world is doing, George Lim, he's been the chairman of SIMC. It's a sister arm of CIAC, which is the arbitration center in Singapore. And on his one of the India trips I was part of, he says, post initiating the arbitration, we take a pause for 8 weeks. We pass on the case to SIMC for mediation. So what happens, either a settlement is achieved and arbitration is stopped, incorporating the consent award as the arbitral award, else arbitration starts. Now, if that is the underlying message, why can't we take it for the larger benefit of the parties in dispute? हम भी ये कर सकते हैं, वो arbitration को रोक लेते हैं, तो हम mediation जहाँ पे लग सकती है लगानी चाहिए हमें. तो if we can take it as a first step, baby step, and make it as a first choice. So last couple of slides. The caveat is a dispute is a dispute, and quantitative ones can also have creative or amicable solutions. Not all situations can be resolved with a winner and a loser, but court cases normally would end up this way, and we understand. So mediation can create winners both the sides. I gave you an examples, winner take all wala situation na ho to. Why should we have winner take all or winner versus loser scenario? Can we try what is right rather than who's right? Not all cases would be eligible for mediation, but why not try? As surely there are no side effects. Part solutions might itself be the first success what we get. A give and take can open many more unseen doors and options. And I keep saying mediation helps increasing the pie itself before exploring the distribution for a true win-win, because wins are not always quantitative. So this brings to the last slide which I mentioned earlier. So some of you who've been part of any of my programs, normally they get to see this. छोटा मोटा कुछ change किया होगा तो मैंने. So I'm saying कि balance में चलिए साहब. लड़ना नहीं है, but खड़े भी नहीं रहना, सुनते भी नहीं रहना. So everywhere you need to strike the right balance. वो balance आपके लिए क्या, मेरे लिए क्या, it will be different for different people. So quickly we'll go through few statements. So first is we are dealing with human beings, right? So we are dealing with subjectivity. उसने क्या कहा, मैंने क्या कहा, उसका रीजन क्या था क्या करने का, no idea, right? IBC is no different. Then there's nothing right or wrong, good or bad. It's just appropriate or inappropriate for a given situation. We have seen IBC changing. Let it change a bit more for the larger benefit of the larger society. We are all intelligent in the hindsight, right? Let's start learning from our experiences and avoid repeating the same mistakes. Answers to most of the questions lie between yes and no. So let us put our heads together and find them. There's a lot of gray in between black and white. Let's identify the gray and accept it for the larger cause. Only thing that's constant is change. Let us bring in some more changes. Changes of two types. One is with A and the other is with T. We have the benefit of both A and T. For the benefit of everyone, I'll say A is age and T is time. तो कई changes age के साथ होते हैं, कई time के साथ. इस time में हमारे पास age भी है और time भी है, हमें करना चाहिए. So you win some, you lose some. Let us try to maximize the wins and reduce the losses. You are in a queue and there are some ahead of you and some behind. Some changes be made by us and some leave it for others. Adopt ACRE in general and specific to other jurisdictions. We can and should create precedents. ACRE is avoid comparisons and reduce expectations. There's always the other side to everything. If you're not able to see, it does not mean it's not there. Let us explore. And the last one, at times, people say, "Arey, mediation aapne pehle nahi bataya, agar hota to hum ye karte, aisa karte." So all I keep saying is, we all have two lives. The second one starts when we realize that we only have one, right? So this is, the entire thing about mediation. And of course, I had to increase the scope of the discussion, so that it does not limit itself to the pre-CIRP thing. It probably has implication and relevance all across IBC, and it's only limited to your own, creativity. आप कहाँ पे इसको कहाँ पे fit करना चाहते हैं, कैसे fit करना चाहते हैं is, totally left to you, because आपकी situations को आप ही better under, you can understand them better. And so that's in a way from my side. Now, if there's anything which any of you want me to repeat, clarify or something, नहीं तो थोड़ी बहुत observation तो बता दीजिए, so at least I'll feel good कि हमने कुछ ढंग की बात बताई है. बताइए जी.
Yeah, Sanjeev ji, this is Himanshu Kapadia.
Yes, Mr. Kapadia.
It's at the outset very nice presentation.
Thank you, sir.
And it has really inspired us to try the mediation.
Lovely.
See, one thing I have understood, and you also agree during your presentation, that 12A is possible.
Yeah.
And 12A is nothing but the kind of a mediation only.
Agreed.
So here, one thing I have learned is that why the IBC has started, primarily I understand because of the ego issues. If there is no ego, then at the initial stage itself, both the party could have sat together and tried the mediation or tried to bring out some kind of amicable settlement, and thereafter there won't be any issue. But because of the ego at the outset, the entire process started. So subsequently when they realized that now IRP has started, IRP has been appointed, and there may be possibility that we may lose the control in the CD, and they come to table and start discussing. So my observation after your entire presentation and discussion, that NCLT should try the mediation immediately after the admission, or you can say the IRP stage should be increased or mediation period should not be counted for the period of 30 days during that IRP, and the mediation should be tried first for the limited period, say 15 days or 20 days. And if the mediation fails, then IRP process should start. This will help the NCLT also if there is a potential 12A cases or not.
I get your point. In fact, I mean, thanks for listening so attentively. दो तीन चीजें मैं और बताता हूँ just to kind of slightly change the way you present it. 12A, we can say that it's not a mediation per se, it's a forced situation where mediation actually is a voluntary situation, right? What happens 12A में आपने COC को involve किया for 90%, उससे पहले 1-1.5 महीने का जो भी प्रोसेस रहा, पब्लिक अनाउंसमेंट हो चुकी, the world has been taken a note of that you are going through insolvency process, claims आएंगे, moratorium शुरू हो गया. So imagine the kind of time, effort which got wasted for no reason. And the IRP who had planned ever since he had given his consent, and today now you are prepared कि यार ये 180 दिन में खत्म करना है, मैं ऐसे करूंगा, this the team, this that, the day you get the order, you are like all गंगो की ऐसे करते हैं, and suddenly you have the pressure कि boss हमें तो निपटाना है इसको. All we are saying is the same situation, why can't it be dragged backwards, right? And we say the day you gave your consent, of course we are talking about a section 7-10 only, or 10 में नहीं होगा because that's the initiated by the CD, but 7 में होता है और 9 में अगर आपने consent दिया हुआ है, if at all. I'm saying why not at that stage the IP who's giving the consent actually dons the hat of a mediator and says, guys, have you explored mediation, right? What's the harm? Because आपका settlement होता है 12A में applicant के साथ ही. Is the applicant who's taken a consent from you, is the applicant who's filing the application, and after a 6 months, 1 year, whatever time, he's the guy who's sitting with the CD and actually negotiating. Now you are made a puppet in this entire thing, where you should have a more proactive role in saying the moment there is a consent, हम बोलते हैं कि नहीं जी आप एक बार explore तो कर लीजिए इसको. Why? Because that is where I'm keeping, again, taking two statements together. One, explain them mediation and the inherent benefits, including relationships and this and that, everything. And you think कि नहीं बात नहीं बन रही, then you give a comparative. कि बॉस करते हो तो ठीक है, नहीं तो ये सारे प्रॉब्लम्स आएंगी ना. अनसर्टेनिटी भी है, फीस भी दोगे, गुड मनी चेसिंग बैड मनी, लूजिंग अ कंपनी, स्केलेटन्स आउट ऑफ द कपबोर्ड वगैरह वगैरह. या तो वो अच्छाई से इंप्रेस हो जाए या बाद की बुराई से डर जाए. Either which way, because that is where you give to a plan A, plan B, और carrot and stick approach भी यही होती है ना कि dangle किया carrot लेकिन एक डंडा भी लगाया, समझाया. तो ideally क्या है कि 12A आया, but 12A late आया. और 12A क्यों आया कि उनको भी लगा कि यार जहां पे ये लोग सेटल करने को तैयार है वहां पे हम करें क्यों, इनको अलाउ कर देते हैं. तो मैं ये कह रहा हूं कि दैट थिंकिंग शुड गेट रिफाइंड फर्दर कि भाई साहब आप समझो कि आगे तकलीफ है तो आज ही सेटल कर लो ना. 12A का मतलब है एडमिशन के बाद कर रहे हो. और जहां तक आप बोलते हो कि NCLT is today also, I have been privy while hearing the applications for admission, they actually are telling the companies or both the sides at time, why don't you guys settle, otherwise we'll admit. Essentially what they're saying, हम तो गए तो उन्हीं के पास इसीलिए ही हैं कि there is a debt and there's a default, you don't need to think anything else, admit, खत्म करो, आप तो पूछो ही मत, no principle of justice, nothing we require, nothing called fair and this and that. But NCLTs actually have been saying, go back, explore settlement, or else we'll admit, which means now we are using it as a threat कि हम admit कर लेंगे तो देखो कच्चे चिट्ठे बाहर आ जाएंगे. तो मेरा ये कहना है, why we make it a kind of a threat mechanism, because कहीं पे तो recoveries ही है ना ये सब. 12A की विड्रॉल कैसे होती है, वो बोलता है अच्छा मैं तैयार हूं पैसे देने को, आप अग्री कर जाओ. उस केस में बाकी लोग भी अब प्रॉब्लम में आ जाएंगे. COC कहेगी उसको दे रहा है मुझे भी दे. नहीं तो आप देखो 12A में क्या होगा, आप खाली एप्लीकेंट के साथ वो करते हो अपना पेमेंट का आपका मैकेनिज्म है एज पर लॉ, बट द मोमेंट यू पे हिम देयर विल बी 20 अदर पीपल बोलेंगे ठीक है नाउ वील गो टू NCLT बिकॉज यू गिवन टू हिम. दैट मीन्स आप सिर्फ डंडे की भाषा समझते हो, कल को मैं अप्लाई कर दूंगा. अनदर 6 months वेस्टेड बिकॉज द न्यू पर्सन हैज स्टार्टेड नाउ. All this can get addressed if you're saying, okay, you are genuine, you have a problem, why don't you sit and resolve? At least for the applicant at that time, because he's coming to you for the consent. So that was one. And if it happens pre-CIRP, where we meant was pre-admission. 12A is a post-admission. Again, in spite of whatever I've said, I'm saying I'm absolutely okay as a mediator. किसी भी stage पे आप करते हो, you're still saving the आगे की तकलीफ. At whatever stage, somebody said about out of court settlement. So I'm saying, ठीक है, आप गलत चले गए या धक्के से चले गए, whatever, like you had to think and you actually started your proceeding. But now, the moment you've realized and you say out of court में कर ले, तो I'm saying, okay, I'm happy. कम से कम आगे की तकलीफ आपने सबके लिए रोक ली. So at any stage, whenever you are ready for a settlement, mediation, negotiation, absolutely it's a welcome move. Only we are saying if we can be rational a bit more, rather than being reactive, we are more responsive to a situation and we use the third party, benefit. अब expert का क्या फायदा होता है बताइए? हम mediator बात तो कर रहे हैं यहाँ पे. Mediator is nobody, is just an expert only because he is focusing on something. तो जब पार्टी जाती है फैसिलिटेट कर रहा है, वो कह रहा है भाई साहब देख लो, he can't sit on their head, he is not vested in the outcome. All he is saying is कि अच्छा आपने सोच लिया, अगर आप इसको रिजॉल्व कर लेते हैं ना, तो आप देखो ये बेनिफिट हो जाएंगे, नहीं तो ये तो तकलीफें हो सकती हैं. आपने दोनों चीजें बता दी. Now you being an IP, amazing, you are in a best position to tell them कि बॉस देखो एज IP मैं बताता हूँ ये तकलीफें भी होंगी, और आज अगर आप रिजॉल्व करते हो तो दोनों का काम बनता है. It's carry on the business. So that is where it is. But yes, more important is the more we have a dialogue on this thing, the more we have interactions, and the more we have brainstorming, some things will come out of it. NCLTs and the IBBIs and the MCAs will have to take note of it, not only because they are left with no other option, but it should be the option or the matter of first choice. तो कई बार क्या होता है, अरे कुछ हो नहीं रहा तो चलो कर देते हैं. 12A तो फाइनली यही हुआ ना कि यार वो देने को तैयार है, क्यों अपना. तो 12A की जस्टिफिकेशन साहब कैसे आई? मैं तो सिंपल बोल रहा हूं, आपने रिकवरी मैकेनिज्म को आपने बढ़ावा दे दिया ओसी की तरह. आपके ओसी के केसेस में बहुत हुआ, लेकिन जस्टिफिकेशन कैसे हुआ? एनसीएलटी के ऊपर बहुत लोड है, तो हमने उनको प्रेशर किया और हमने कहा चलो 12A में चलो कम हो जाएंगे. दिस इज नॉट द राइट एक्सप्लेनेशन. जस्ट बिकॉज यू कांट हैव जजेस एंड एनसीएलटीज एंड द बेंचेस, यू कांट से कि मेरे लॉ में ना बड़ा वो तो अनस्टेबिलिटी हो गई है बिकॉज ऑफ लैक ऑफ मैन पावर, तो मैं ना केसेस नहीं चाहता इसलिए मैं विड्रॉल अलाउ कर रहा हूं. दैट इज नॉट द वे. यू शुड एक्चुअली से कि भाई साहब आपको लड़ने की क्या जरूरत थी? टिल द टाइम एजुकेशन इज द ओनली वे लेफ्ट, टिल द टाइम द सोल्यूशन इज ओनली अ CIRP, till the time that is the only way you can get a legit resolution plan approved and the haircuts accepted, then only come to CIRP. Otherwise guys, please resolve. इसी के लिए हम बोल रहे हैं, as one of my suggestion was कि before an application is now filed, we should try and have a affidavit or a undertaking from the parties, both the sides, that yes, we tried a mediation. It failed, it failed. That's okay. Of course, we can come out with a process कि boss ऐसा नहीं कि eyewash नहीं होना चाहिए. Try and make it a serious attempt. But if you fail, then at least you've done your bit, then come to us, and then we should not be even asking a question. Debt नजर आ रहा है, default आ रहा है, शुरू कर दो आप. And then 12A should be ruled out with that guy. That's the penalty. So because then you are wasting time of the entire system and the machine. Right. Yeah, so that's what it is.
Thank you. Thank you, sir.
Okay, so what, anyone else, or in any case we are beyond the time. 5 के सवा 5 हो गए. So anyone has anything to check, observe, comment, or if you're tired 3 years of me lecturing you, then in any case I'm also absolutely, I would also want a break, frankly. So आप बताइए जी, otherwise we'll put a close to this.
Besides missing bridge.in, you had another thing called what? Insolvency clinic.
Insolvency clinic, yeah.
.com.
Right.
Okay.
This site is becoming active probably tomorrow, day after.
All right.
Yeah.
Looking at.
Right. So yeah, that's what it is then. So I think I've done my bit, and I wish you all the best. It'll be great if some of you would want to really go deeper into mediation and understand what it is, and then be a full-time certified mediator, help the cause. mediation bill aega, so definitely you'll get more legitimacy into this thing. But as a private mediator, nobody stops you from, helping people resolve the disputes. And essentially it's no rocket science. It's, as I said, it's a art and science only to the extent that help them understand a bit more rationally, help them understand, give them a fresh perspective कि लड़ लो, कब तक लड़ोगे, क्या अचीव करोगे, और कई जगह पे where you should be deciding as to what you want, why you want a third party to decide as to who's right and what is good for you. उतना ही है. जहां पे एडजुडिकेशन चाहिए तो चाहिए. आपके एग्रीमेंट में एनएचआई ने किसी से कॉन्ट्रैक्टर से लफड़ा किया है, वो बिना आर्बिट्रेशन केस सॉल्व नहीं हो रहा. मैं कहता हूं उसके अंदर भी आप ट्राई कीजिए. अगर पीएसयू होता है तो उसके लिए किसी एक आदमी को तकलीफ ना हो, व्हाई ही एग्रीड फॉर अ हेयर कट, व्हाई एग्रीड फॉर दिस, मेक अ कमिटी. वी हैव सॉल्यूशंस. वी आर सेइंग लेट्स अटेम्प्ट, बिकॉज अदरवाइज डू अंडरस्टैंड, जब 4 करोड़ केसेस आपके पेंडिंग होते हैं और आपको कभी 2 मिनट मिलते हैं और कभी 5 मिनट मिलते हैं, और वो भी डायरेक्टली नहीं मिलते, और मिलते हैं आपको थ्रू अ लॉयर ऑफ यू, विच मीन्स कि चाइनीज उस पर वैसे हो जाता है, आपने अपने लीगल डिपार्टमेंट को बताया, उसने आगे किसी को बताया, उसने एक सीनियर को ब्रीफ किया, और उसने जाके जज को, उस दिन जज के मूड के ऊपर डिपेंड करते हुए कि पिछला केस उसने कैसे सुना है और वो कितना अटेंटिव है, और वो लास्ट केस है और या लंच के पहले का केस है, एवरीथिंग मैटर्स. एंड लेट्स ऑल बी अप्रिशिएटिव ऑफ द फैक्ट दैट आई एम नॉट मेकिंग अ स्टोरी हियर. I have been to the courts and I mean it what I'm saying it. So unless until this is the last option what you have, then absolutely no discussions. फिर हम टाइम वेस्ट करेंगे, नहीं जी मेडिएशन कर लो, नहीं जी हमने नहीं करनी है, फिर तो लास्ट ऑप्शन है ही वो. बट उससे पहले एट एनी पॉइंट इन टाइम इफ यू थिंक, एंड दिस नॉट जस्ट sermons being given कि भाई किसी और के लिए, it applies to every one of us. I use it internally. I mean, I use it for myself, for my own ecosystem. Because what essentially I'm helping you is buying peace. Peace has a premium today, boss. And in my the earlier content table, there was like a reality what we all kind of learned recently was nothing but a COVID scenario. COVID के अंदर आप बताइए कि कौन से सुप्रीम कोर्ट ने, कौन से कोर्ट ने किसको ठीक बोला और किसको गलत बोला. टेनेंट को गलत बोला, लैंडलॉर्ड को गलत बोला, जिसने पैसे देने थे उसको गलत बोला, जिसने लेने थे गलत बोला, कोविड को गलत बोला. कुछ नहीं है. समथिंग हिट एवरीवन, ऑल योर एग्रीमेंट्स, कॉन्ट्रैक्ट्स, एवरीथिंग. सो दिस इज द एप्लीकेशन ऑफ अ सिनेरियो इन अ कमर्शियल सिनेरियो, इन अ कमर्शियल सिचुएशन. फैमिली एम्प्लॉयमेंट तो अलग बातें होती हैं. यहाँ पे तो एम्प्लॉयमेंट में वर्क फ्रॉम होम की बात हो गई. वैसे लोग छुट्टी देने को तैयार नहीं होते हैं, तो वो एक अलग डिस्कशन. बट सिंपल पॉइंट, इन कमर्शियल सिनेरियो, इन कमर्शियल डिस्प्यूट्स where people were not able to adhere to the agreements and MOUs and the contracts and the clauses, the courts had no clue किसको गलत ठहराऊं मैं. आप भी ठीक हो, मैं भी ठीक हूं, आपने मुझे पैसे नहीं दिए, मैंने आगे नहीं दिए, उसने आगे नहीं दिए. लैंडलॉर्ड को मैं कैसे ठीक बताऊं कि भैया मैं टेनेंट मेरा काम नहीं कर पा रहा, वो मेरे को पैसे नहीं दे रहे. एवरीवन. एंड फाइनली सुप्रीम कोर्ट आल्सो केम आउट एंड सेड, व्हाई डोंट यू गाइस सेटल? Why don't you look at mediation? Everywhere it happened. So that means unless until we have a COVID scenario, unless until we are really like, we get hit by something which is like, a God sent, this situation, तब तक हमें ये नहीं पता चलना चाहिए कि यार हम बैठ के भी सुलझा सकते हैं. Okay, so that is something which has really come as, I mean, I can't say a boon, क्योंकि मेरे को मतलब मेडिएशन को समझाने के लिए अगर कोविड की जरूरत है तो like I'll be a fool, वो नहीं है. But now we had a situation, but there is something to learn from here कि there are situations. देखिए इंसान है, आपके डाइवर्जेंट व्यूज होंगे. मैंने आपको सबसे सिंपल एग्जांपल दिया 6 और 9 का. हमारे पास व्हाट्सएप पे इतना ज्ञान आता है. 6 और 9 तो सिंपल है, उसकी वीडियोस भी आते हैं. आप खड़े हो, आपको 6 9 लग रहा है, मेरे को 9 6 लग रहा है. आप भी ठीक हो, मैं भी ठीक हूं. दैट्स द ब्यूटी, एंड दैट हैपेंस. That happens. So, but when that happens, am I willing to come to you and like understand from your perspective, and you are willing to see from my perspective? The moment we say yes, I think your solution is there right on the table. Simple. अब वो क्या होता है, ईगो है और टिपिकल, I mean, मैं खुद हूं, मतलब I can't be saying whatever I say, but then I like I also falter. जब गुस्सा आता है तो आता है, तो दिमाग काम नहीं करता ना. तो वो कह रहा हूं, डिपेंड करता है कि what are the stakes. When the stakes are high, you better look at a response, not a reaction. Number one. Also accept that, if there's an expert or someone who's been spending more time on a particular thing, he just knows a bit more than probably you and me. डॉक्टर के इसलिए जाते हैं ना, फिर डॉक्टर के जनरल फिजिशियन के बाद हम एक सर्जन के पास जाते हैं. He knows more than the general physician because he's concentrating on something. He knows more things through the depth. यही है, but the similes which I wanted to give was only to a limited extent that there is a sense in in this entire concept. और वो कौन कितना कहाँ अप्लाई कर सकता है उसका कोई पैरामीटर नहीं है. It's just you absorb. As I said, it's a way of life. It's an approach. So if you do this, if you think, if you absorb it, वो बाय डिफॉल्ट आपकी नेचर में और आपकी अपनी डीलिंग्स के अंदर समझ आ जाएगी. तो वो आपको अलग से उसकी कोई तैयारी ही नहीं करनी. देयर इज नो कोर्स, देयर इज नो करिकुलम बॉस एट द डे एंड. वी जस्ट थिंक ओके लेट्स सिट बैक, रिलैक्स एंड सी इट फ्रॉम अ डिफरेंट पर्सपेक्टिव. और एक माइंड में इंटेंट होनी चाहिए कि कोई सोल्यूशन भी ढूंढ सकता हूँ कि सिर्फ मेरे को पत्थर ही मारना है इसको. कई बार होता है कि दैट्स द ओनली वे लेफ्ट, सो दैट्स ओके. And nowhere I'm saying, we have to be meek or we'll give in and we'll be weak and, we can't negotiate. We need to go with a position of strength. All those things are part of negotiation. You need to be very sure कि जब आप mediation में भी बैठते हैं as a party in dispute or as a mediator or, as a negotiator, you need to understand the psyche of the other person, your own बैठना आपके पास plan A, plan B, what is your next best option? So if you get an option to buy peace, do that. Going forward, I'm sure peace will be more at a premium. जिसके पास ज्यादा होगी, he'll be a rich man accordingly. तो थोड़ा कई बार लगता है वो बाबा जी की तरह बात करनी शुरू हो गई. That's not the intent. I mean, I just gets added that way. तो थोड़ी सी philosophy आ जाती है इसमें. But sorry if I've taken it too far. Come back to the point. Mediation precursor to CIRP is what we discussed. But I went through and saying that mediation can still be explored as principles of mediation in various stages of IBC. And let's do our bit by trying to sensitize people, and that's about it. No more discussions from my side. So if you are all okay, I'll pass on the baton to Peer, and she'll give the concluding remarks, and then I still continue to wish you all the best. ठीक है जी, चलिए. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
I would like to extend my thanks to Sanjeev Ahuja sir. Thank you so very much, sir, for such an interactive and informative session on mediation. We are very grateful for your time and effort you took to share your thought and experiences on the mediation with our members. Personally, I have learned a lot about mediation from your session, sir.
Good.
We look forward for your support and association with us in our future programs also.
Absolutely.
Thank you once again for your contribution.
Okay, ji, great, everyone. Thank you. Please take care. Stay safe. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
I also would like to thank all our participants for attending this series. Tomorrow we will be having another most important and interesting topic of this series, which is landmark decisions rendered by the Supreme Court in the year 2022. This session will be taken up by Mr. Ashish Makhija ji, and this will start at the same time from 2 p.m. Thank you all. Have a great evening.